95 of Bolts. Here comes the caution.
Flag is dropped here at Daytona, and away we go for the first time. Nicholas Morcel, Sean.
Looks like most get through unscathed. Look at that, there's Reed Gibson. A big move at the inside line of Dom's, possibly a little bit of contact.
Now, as we've got three wide action going through turns 1 and 2.
And they're underway. Eric Hahn takes a nice jump. Wilson hasn't let it go very far.
Nice to go out here for circuit spot Francorchamps. Alex Johnson's off to a brilliant start there.
See just how oddly shaped this one is. We saw in the background Eric Hahn go for a bit of a swing, and he's gone and he's over.
New stuff. Cody Graham's the one-on-one up into second place. Alex Johnson 6/10 lead at the moment.
They're dicey up front. There's Andrew Kessel, Justin Sang.
They are ready to go. The lights are out, and away we go for the very first time here at Okayama International Circuit. Finley Fitzsimmons. Good evening, race fans, and welcome back to the Velocity Racing League 2023 Cup Series, as we are here today at Iowa Speedway for the second crown jewel race of the season for the Heartland 400. And my name is Mason Heimbaugh, joined alongside me from down under, Gareth McAllister, with Team Goon Squad, bringing you the action here, 1080p 60 frames a second, as we gear up for what will be 400 laps here for the second crown jewel race of the season. And Gareth, I expect it to be quite a lot of great racing and some great action amongst the 15 drivers that have shown up here tonight to compete for whether it will be either $50 for the win or for 5 select drivers out here tonight, $100 if they can take it home with the win here tonight, as qualifying currently underway.
Yeah, g'day Mason, g'day everyone watching at home. This is looking like it's going to be a pretty good one. We've had quite a few drivers already turning some laps, already seeing a few issues a little bit in practice with just trying to get dialed in as to how these drivers are going around Iowa Speedway. We got 0.85 mile track, we got 400 laps, we got a pit speed of only 40 miles an hour and slowing down. This should be a relatively easy pit entry, I believe. With traffic, it may be a little bit more difficult. Our 5 crown jewel drivers for tonight: Jaden Hopp, Nicholas Corsell, Benjamin Lacey, Howie Briss, and Sean Williams. Unfortunately, I believe every single one of those drivers is actually going to turn out here tonight. So that is great to see, as they have a chance to win an extra $50 on top of the $50 heading to our winner's pocket at the end of this race. 400 laps here. It's going to be a long one, Mason.
Absolutely, these drivers gearing up and getting ready as the number 92 driver, Tony Hillbrands. And we just saw, if you were looking just a second ago, Nathan Gutierrez, the 07 driver, having a similar incident, but Tony Hillbrands getting the shorter straw in this collision here as he makes his way across the, across the front straight and across the grass and into the top wall of the pit lane. So Aaron Smith currently sitting at the very tippy top of the pole with a 23.54 as the time to beat, only 4 100ths of a second behind that Nathan Gutierrez in that 07 machine. But Aaron Smith being right now the driver to beat, and also showing that exits out of turn 4 are going to be treacherous here. Gareth, it looks like, really it looks like coming out of 4 there, it looks almost like drivers are going to be really trying to deal with glass as they're trying to navigate that turn.
Yeah, it really does look like everyone is stuck on an ice skating rink at the moment. It really does look like it's going to be quite difficult to get it dialed in. Even Jaden Hopp, you saw there, typically one of our drivers that is very, very well known for not getting loose at all, had a tiny bit of a bobble coming out of 4, just showing you how loose it actually is out there tonight. And looks like he's going to be fighting with that machine just a little bit on entry as well. Seems like it's very, very loose here today. As you can see just how much he was turning to the right, and the car was not pointing that direction at all. So this is going to be a true test, I believe. And, you know, we've said this before, but 400 laps, it's going to be a real test, not only mental fortification, as we often see with these long races, but physically, if you keep turning to the right when your car's going left, I mean, that is going to play on your shoulders, I'm sure.
Oh, 100%. And I mean, these drivers, it seems to be here in qualifying that perhaps they're pushing things to their limit, trying to get as much time out of this track as they currently can. And being in a draft is obviously going to be a lot easier to pull some of these times here. Being in a lone car qualifying situation, some tracks are going to be easier than others. When it comes to single car qualifying, you know, you take it to a super speedway, you pretty much just tap on the gas and go. There's no real thinking to it. You just get up and go. Here at Iowa, a little bit of a different story given the layout of this track. You don't necessarily have a true front straight through out of turn 4 and into turn 1. It's kind of more of that, I hear it called the bus stop or a dog leg, if you will. Various names that I've heard over my time in the broadcasting booth, but that is going to be our qualifying done and dusted. Let's go ahead and get into our starting grid. Starting at the very tippy top of the starting lineup is Jaden Hopp and Aaron Smith in the front row, and Nathan Gutierrez and James Miller taking up our second row. Tony Hillbrands and Nicholas Corcel taking up our third row. Matthew Fitz and Logan Jones going to be in our fourth row, with Sean Williams and Michael Keithley in our fifth row. Benjamin Lacey and Scott Shire taking up the sixth row, and moving on down to Steve Ulrich and Michael Ashmore in our seventh row, and Howie Dtre rounding out the field here in our 15th place spot. And Gareth, we were talking a little bit about last week's All-Star race right here at Iowa, where things were kind of a little bit different. The dynamic of the whole All-Star race night was a little bit unorthodox to what we're typically used to seeing here on a normal Monday night here for Velocity Racing League, but it turned out to be some fantastic racing. And you'll have to remind Nathan Gutierrez coming away, or excuse me, was it Nicholas Lovell? No, it was a Nathan.
So it was Nicholas Lovell came away with the win of the All-Star race, but Nathan Gutierrez won the Open to get himself into the All-Star race.
That is okay.
So,
that is how I'm understanding it. Okay. Well, with that being said, folks, it was some fantastic racing for the All-Star race last week, and if you missed any of that, you can head back to the Team Goon Squad channel and catch some of that action that we had last week. But here tonight, it is a full-length race, so we will be here for quite some time. And Gareth, I expect this one to really challenge a lot of this field here today. Again, 15 drivers present for today's race, and I'm sure some drivers here in the Velocity Racing League probably saw this race on the schedule and thought to themselves, yeah, I don't know about that. And frankly, I don't necessarily blame them all too much, because this is going, again, like I mentioned, it's going to be a challenge for every single one of these drivers, but it's also going to be rewarding to those that stick to it and perhaps find themselves at the front of all of the action when things are all said and done and the checkered flag is out. $50 or $100 are on the line here tonight, and I mean, Gareth, I think that's enough right there to at least keep me on the track for the night.
Yeah, and you know, it's just been pointed out by Dawn Hillbrands. Thank you for rejigging my memory. But yeah, it does say on the stat sheet that Nicholas Lovell was the winner of the All-Star race, but I'm trying to make my brain remember last weekend. Or last week, and I do remember that I think Gutierrez did win it at the end. So
he did win both.
So now I'm completely crazy, but oh well, that's okay. As we have, but you're definitely right. There's a cash prize here tonight, as there was last night as well. Iowa, a difficult track, so we'll see how it goes. We thank Lindsay, Mike Ashmore, Dawn Hillbrands, and everyone else joining us in the spectator area as we go to green. Jaden Hopp and Aaron Smith side by side for the moment. Nathan Gutierrez with no real pressure next to him as Tony Hilbrands falls a little bit back with James Miller as well. Nicholas Corsell by himself just ahead of a battle there between Logan Jones and Matthew Fitz. Logan Jones sending it to the outside. This progressive banking, 12 degrees on the low side, but 14 up top, really allowing these drivers to be side by side for quite a while here.
Yeah, it is really playing in their favor. Some multi-groove racing that we are going to see here tonight, and already it is showing just how well it's going to play to the favor for some of these drivers here already. Jaden Hopp, the number 81 machine, who, fun fact, was the race winner for last year's race here at Iowa. So Jaden Hopp already off to a very good start alongside Nathan Gutierrez, who was second in that pole in qualifying here today. So Nathan already making the move up into first out of the front straight. And as Jaden Hopp and Nathan make their way through 3 and 4, Jaden now going to have to try and get himself settled in back behind the number 07 machine. But back here in the 5th place spot, we see Tony Hilbrands getting right behind Aaron Smith as well as James Miller. Tony Hilbrands trying to get underneath the number 70's rear bumper as they come out of turn 2 and onto the back straightaway. We see most of the field going into that single file formation behind them, just trying to get things settled in and trying to get themselves ready for the next 400 laps. But before all of that happens, we also have to consider pit stops, but it is still way too early to even start worrying about that. Right now, you want to get yourself out there, get those tires warmed up, get yourself in a comfortable rhythm before you even have to even consider making that move down into pit lane. But Gareth, as I'm sure you know, that time will come up a lot sooner than some of these drivers might think.
Yeah, absolutely. You can get Nicholas Corsell just getting into the rear bumper of Aaron Smith. Tony Hilbrand's trying to take advantage as well on the low side, so we're going to see how that one plays out as he's not able to make a move, but Corsell looks like he's going to make a move on that high side. And you know, Nicholas Corsell, he's been rocking around that high side lane, and it seems to be working for him at the moment. That little bit of extra banking just coming into play right there on that outside line. Now, another thing we would like to point out, though, is just that there are yellow splitters and yellow spoilers, as well as a little bit of, what's that tape called? On the windscreen, which is yellow tape. And that's going to signify to all of us watching at home, as well as us in the broadcast booth, which drivers are these Crown Jewel drivers. Unfortunately, there are some cars, aka Aaron Smith, and I believe Logan Jones has a yellow spoiler as well, that are going to be a little bit misleading here. But essentially, once again, our Crown Jewel drivers are Jaden Hopp, Nicholas Corsell, Benjamin Lacey, Howie Briss, and Sean Williams. So all of those drivers are going to be out here tonight, except I'm not sure if Howie Briss made it tonight. Now that I'm looking at the stat sheet, it doesn't look like he did. So only four Crown Jewel drivers joining us out here tonight.
Which is rather surprising to see. I mean, Howie Briss not able to attend a race here tonight. I think he might have mentioned it at some point. I'm not sure when, but yeah, very unfortunate to not have Howie Briss out here tonight. But I think at this point in the race and in the season, I should say, more or less the season for Howie, he's probably in a position where he's not too concerned about the Crown Jewel, and maybe even wants to take the time to give himself a little bit of a break, an off week, if you will, to kind of maybe build up a strategy and come back strong after he returns, obviously. But, you know, it is also Memorial Day here in the United States, so I'm sure that a lot of us here in stateside have been enjoying the weekend as Americans tend to do, and I'm more than certain that Howie might even be recovering a little bit as well, so we'll have to also bear that in mind. But either way, either how, I hope everyone that is watching the broadcast has had a phenomenal Memorial Day weekend. It has been absolutely incredible weather, at least over here in my area of the state, so I hope that it's been the same for everyone else, and that you have all had a safe and fun weekend. I know that I certainly have. And Gareth, I know that you're not exactly stateside, but I'm sure that you had a fairly good weekend down there in Australia.
Yeah, nothing but rain, mate. It was.
Oh, that's no fun.
It's been raining a whole lot lately. But Sean Williams, Logan Jones look like going to be side by side for the moment. Benjamin Lacey just behind there, looking on as well, and filming the Wild Machine. Gonna make that move on that slightly higher lane. Not gonna have the dive into the corner, but definitely will have a little bit of a jump on the high side, a little bit more speed and momentum carried through. And it looks like he has just made that pass on Logan Jones, Benjamin Lacey, that is, as Nicholas Corsell goes to the high side over James Miller. But yeah, we'd like to say, now that we talk about Memorial Day as well, you know, we'd like to thank not only the troops in America, but everywhere all over the world fighting for everyone, and we appreciate their effort and really their contribution to making the world kind of, I would say, a safer place at this point. I think that's not too far of a stretch to call it that.
No, I think you're definitely right, Gareth. And yeah, it's definitely a great privilege, a great honor to have so many willing and able people to, you know, fight for their countries and fight for what they believe in. It's always great to have that kind of support behind you, to know that you don't have to be the one to do it yourself, at least here in the States and where places, other parts of the world where mandatory service is not a thing. I don't know if that's a thing in Australia, but I know that it is in a lot of other places. But either way, thank you to everyone who serves, has served, and so on and so forth. But back to the action, back to all of the racing that has developed so far. Lap 18 of 400, and still a long way left to go. But I will say almost, we're about a third of the way through our first stint here for these drivers. About, I have to go back and check our notes here again, but I believe it was about 70 to 75 laps is our fuel window here today. 10 sets of tires are allocated for drivers behind the wall, so 11 sets in total, including the ones that are currently underneath them right now. So with that in mind, we are going to see drivers coming in down to pit road. I would have to imagine, given by that math, about 4 to 5 times throughout tonight's race. Maybe a little less. Well, that should be about where we'll see things tonight, but things could also shape up in a way where we might see drivers come down a little bit more often. But I'm not going to say the magical word, because we know what happens when that word is said, and I'm not doing it, Gareth. I'm not going to be the one to do it.
I kind of missed where you were going with that, to be honest with you.
Oh.
Like, I kind of had a moment where I was reading what Lindsay was saying in chat, and then I just like blanked out. That's on me. I'm not gonna. That is entirely my fault. I'm so sorry,
well,
Mason. But
essentially, what I was trying to say is you know, the exact thing that Aaron Smith and Nicholas Corso were just doing there a second ago, driving door to door down the back straightaway. You know, things like that tend to kind of develop the thing that I'm trying to avoid talking about. But these two seem to be handling it very, very well and being very cautious of one another and showing great control of their vehicles. So, hopefully,
I get you now. I got you. I got you. I'm on your wavelength now. It just took a little bit, but yeah, definitely a lot of side-by-side racing, as we've seen. These progressive banking tracks definitely promote that, and these drivers so far have not gotten into contact with one another. And I think a big reason for that is no one's pushing incredibly hard at the moment, as I believe they're all saying to themselves, look, there's 400 laps. It's effectively an endurance oval race, and we've got a very, very long way to go yet. So no one wanting to push the issue too hard, and it's probably not worth the effort really getting out here, making your way out. And at the end of the day, you know, in order to finish first you have to finish. So that's probably weighing on these drivers' minds a little bit as well. If you push too early, you've just lost yourself some $50 prize money, or $100 in some case, and certainly that's not the way to do it.
Yeah, you know, and like I was saying in the beginning of the broadcast, you know, these drivers are obviously a lot more experienced than I am. They're going to have a lot more skill than myself. me being behind the wheel is kind of like putting a chimpanzee behind the wheel. It's not going to end very well. I mean, obviously I can do better than a chimp, but that's just...
I'd like to see that. I kind of want to put that in now. Oh, we got to put that like a competition. Mason versus monkey
versus a chimpanzee in a racing simulator. That I would honestly be impressed to see a chimp able to do a full lap around an oval. I would be impressed.
We don't know. He could be absolute god. Like maybe they could train him from like being really young to be like just the beast, and you know he could just like show up. I don't know. Anyway. We're currently watching the battle between Aaron Smith and James Miller here for the 4th position.
Whoa,
Aaron Smith on the low side. There's definitely some smoke up there on that high side of the lane. Howie D-Tray is down pit road, and it looks like he's been there for about a minute or so at the moment. So I wonder if that's got anything to do with him coming down pit road.
Let's take a look here. We've got Logan Jones coming down into pit road here. I'm not sure if this is exactly the moment that we're looking for, and it doesn't seem like it is. Perhaps if we rewind things here a little bit, we might be able to identify things a little bit better here. Oh, there it is right here. So timing and scoring, not picking it up here, but Logan Jones getting a little bit loose down the back straightaway right as he's about to enter into turn 3. Trying to get that car slowed down. That is where all of that tire smoke is coming from. All that brake smoke is coming from. Logan Jones getting hot on the brakes, trying to get that car slowed down as quickly as possible, and luckily able to avoid the wall and avoid further damage to that race car. And excuse me to all of you that are watching right now as your screen is about to get just a smidgen little bit brighter. I do apologize for that. I seem to keep forgetting to turn that off every now and then, but I'm saving all of your eyes, so you're welcome.
Oh, well, I appreciate that, Mason. Thank you very much. But yeah, it has to be said, Logan Jones, you know, he did a great job keeping the car off the wall, and you can see the front tire was absolutely not moving. So definitely flat spotting those things and heating them up very much. So he's going to have to be careful the next couple of laps as it gets very, very close between Aaron Smith and James Miller. Once again, these two drivers been side by side for quite a number of laps at this point, and they're still continuing to be side by side now. What this is really doing is this is more than anything, it's really hurting these guys. As you can see, Nicholas Corsell in the foreground, he has left them a little bit further behind. However, they're not being caught too much by Tony Hilbrand's just behind them. So it actually looks like it might not be hurting them too much here, and that may be due to that progressive banking.
Yeah, it really is a tricky spot to be in when I mean, both of these guys are not going to be in an ideal situation. I would probably say James Miller is going to be in the better spot here as opposed to Aaron Smith. Aaron's taking, albeit probably the shorter line, but he is going to be abusing those tires a lot more, especially on corner exit, in order to maintain that speed to keep alongside James Miller. James is going to have the advantage of exit speed, where he can really keep that momentum moving, and out of turns 4 and out of turn 2, he can really just kind of just blast out of those 2 turns. So again, Aaron Smith's going to have a lot of work in order to keep alongside him and try and keep that momentum, but in turn, he's also going to abuse those tires in the same regard. But this is also, again, a multi-groove racetrack. You can take all 3 of these lanes and still race alongside one another, but they're all going to have their own advantages and disadvantages. But right now, this is what these two are choosing to kind of work with. And as we say that, Nathan Gutierrez, the leader of this race so far, now starting to see Jaden Hopp work his way right alongside as we come out of turn 4, and it is only just less than a quarter of a second separating these two drivers as they work their way out of 2 and onto the back straightaway.
Yeah, Nathan Gutierrez has got to know that Jaden Hopp has a lot of pace in that 81 machine. He has been by far and away the best performing driver this season. And Nathan Gutierrez was our winner during the All-Star race though, so he certainly knows how to get around this track at Iowa Speedway. And he's definitely not going to be able to run away with it without too much pressure, as Jaden Hopp is applying all of it right now. And you can see that inside line seems to be working wonders right now, as Michael Ashmore was on the apron just for a second there going a lap down.
Michael Ashmore getting a little bit off track here. The number 98 machine we can still see down here as he makes his way into pit road. I'm assuming going to get a little bit of damage repaired. You can see that front end having seen better days here, but luckily he's going to get it banged out early in this race as opposed to in the final 50 or 100 laps of the race where time is of the essence. And right now, you got a little bit of time to spare, and hopefully we'll be able to recover from that here as Sean Williams gets into the wall just a little bit, leaving a little bit of paint behind on the wall of turn 4 there. But already a Nathan Gutierrez, Jaden Hopp, they're heating things back up here, and Aaron Smith, James Miller as well, back in 4th place, going side by side through turns 3 and 4. Gareth, the action is heating up all over the place here.
Absolutely, we're seeing 2 wide all over the place, as you said. You know, 1st and 2nd, we've got a battle for 4th, we've got a battle for 7th, we've got a battle for 9th. I mean, it just seems like everyone is very, very close together. And you know, I'd also like to reference just quickly that we had Dawn Hillbrands saying that they had a great family grill out yesterday, and I'm wondering if the grill is essentially an American Barbie. I'm trying to think of.
Okay, but what's an Australian Barbie? Is that is that what you cook the food on?
Yeah.
Okay, so yeah, that's like the grill. Okay, that's a grill. Perfect.
Yeah. So you have a barbecue, but I mean everyone just calls it a Barbie.
That
which is
makes
funny because
more
then you've
sense
got
to me now.
yeah, which is funny because then you got a Barbie, like as in the Barbie doll. But anyway, yeah, something you probably don't want to cook because it's plastic and it'll start up fumes that are toxic and all the rest of it.
You don't want that in your grill. You definitely don't want Barbie plastic in your grill.
I tell you, I mean, when I was younger, I actually put a water bottle on a fire. It was an open fire, and I don't know why I did it. Don't ask me. Just a crazy kid, I guess. And it was cool to like see it dissolve and stuff. But I didn't realize that like the air coming from it is super toxic. So don't put plastic on a fire and stand near it, kids. Don't do that. As Sean Williams and Tony Hillbrands go side by side now, and Sean Williams has been steadily moving his way through the pack as well. He has had that little bit of contact with the outside wall earlier on, but it looks like he's going to be able to make this pass on Tony Hillbrands. And that 89 machine is working his way slightly to the front, just ever so slowly. Our biggest mover of the race, as my brain moves faster than my mouth can move, is Benjamin Lacey in the 6th position, up 5 spots so far. So he's figured something out so far.
Yeah, it is really surprising to see kind of how this field is kind of working themselves out. I mean, we've got Jaden Hopp, who has returned himself back to the lead, and we can actually take a look at that pass that he made here from Nathan Gutierrez, and is now building up to well over a second-long gap here. Nathan actually getting up into the wall. We'll back this up here for just a second so you guys can see this a little bit more in depth here as Nathan gets a little bit of a snap there and unfortunately recovers it into the wall, but I mean, on the one hand, the wall kind of helped him straighten the car back out, but now I'm more than certain that that car is going to have a little bit of damage to that right side. So the 07 machine now going to be suffering a little bit of pace. He's going to be losing a little bit of pace from that damage. As we can see now, Nicholas Coruscant makes his way right on by the 07 machine, the 45 Sour Patch Kids driver, one of the crown jewel drivers amongst that of Jaden Hopp, also competing for that $100 here today for the second crown jewel race of the 2023 Velocity Racing League season. Garrett, this has been a spicy race so far, and if this is anything to go by, I mean, I think we're going to see a lot of great action here tonight, as, you know, we're already 50 laps in and we're still seeing battles out on track. I don't think this is really going to change up here anytime soon.
Yeah, and that's what this progressive banking really allows. It does make it a little bit harder to pass the car in front, but it does allow a lot of multi-group racing, and that will allow these drivers to get up right next to each other and make it so that these battles are continually happening throughout the racetrack. As we pan back, you can see Scott Shire and Sean Williams fighting for the 8th place spot, maybe even the 7th place spot in only a short amount of time, as Tony Hilbrands is just ahead there. You can see in the green machine. But yeah, you know, Nathan Gutierrez dropping back a few spots, and I think that's just due to hitting that wall, like you said, a little bit of damage. And I almost wonder if a lot of that has to do with the way he hit the wall, especially with the way the wall comes down and banks towards the cars. I honestly wonder if he hurt the what's it called? Man, I shouldn't be saying this on podcast. I should know what I'm talking about. But it's the it's when you hit that wall and you will get your wheel alignment out of line. That's right. So the wheel will be bent inwards ever so slightly, meaning that the steering rack is bent, and so you're going to be having to, even though the car is pointed straight, you have to turn the wheel ever so slightly in order to make the car actually go in a straight line. And it looks like that may be what has happened to Anathian, as he has a big slide. Manages to hold on to it though. Fantastic stuff from Anathian. I'm sure we're going to see him back up towards the front later on, but certainly a new driving style that he might have to get used to here.
Yeah, and I mean, Anathian, we've seen him kind of in these situations before in previous races where he's gotten the car a little bit banged up here and there, but he's managed to adapt to the damage and been able to overcome it, or at least keep himself in the race. Maybe not fully overcome it in the sense that he's back up in the lead or coming away with a win or anything in that regard, but he's definitely able to keep himself out there as long as the damage isn't too severe, I would imagine. And just by the looks of things and by the looks of what we saw there on screen for just a moment, it does seem like he'll be able to keep things kind of relatively stable here throughout, I mean, at least until they're ready to come down into pit road. What kind of damage he needs to get worked out there remains to be seen. I mean, it could be something as simple as he just needs new tires, which I kind of doubt. It could be something as serious as, you know, he needs a whole new axle. He needs, you know, a wheel hub or a bearing of some kind, or the upper or lower control arms are out of place. I don't know. There's all sorts of things, and I'm not exactly a mechanic to, you know, be able to tell you right off the bat, but I could tell you enough that there's enough parts there that you can, if damaged enough, your car is not going to drive all that well, or at all in some cases. So Lindsay's saying, watching this and the what is it? It's not the Coke 600. What is the NASCAR race, the Cup race going on right now? Yeah.
Is this the Coke 600, isn't it?
Is it the Coke 600?
Yeah, because it got rain delayed yesterday.
Okay.
To the next day, so it's still the Memorial Day race. But I just want to point this out real quick, Lindsay. You shouldn't have a problem deciding which one to watch. You should be watching us. I mean, where are the loyalties? You know what I mean? What's going on?
Well, I respect the dedication. I definitely respect the desire. Excuse me. The desire to want to watch both. You've got the one race that your son is also racing in, but you've also got the big guys out there racing as well in the real world. So I understand that's you know, a little bit of conflictions going on, but either way, I admire I admire you being here nonetheless and being a part of both racing experiences as we're settling in well into our first stint here for these drivers, and about 10 to 15 laps before we make our way down into pit road for the very first time here at Iowa Speedway. And Gareth, I mean, this has kind of been a long time coming for these drivers, and already seeing a couple drivers making their way down into pit road here as we see James Miller making his entry down into the pits. And also, just to point out here as well, Michael Ashmore, the number 98 machine, saying a little bit ago in chat, don't have to run all 400 laps if you lose it on the front stretch about 35 laps in. Yeah, you know, Mike, I think I would be right there with you that it would probably be something I would do. So don't feel too bad about it, because I would. If anyone has ever seen my I rating, you would know exactly what I'm talking about. The public servers are not kind to me. Anyway,
well, I mean, Michael Ashmore is still out there. He's still turning laps from what I can see. So that's still great to see, regardless of that incident earlier on. But Nathan Gutierrez, we saw almost hit the wall on the way in as well. So that was a bit of a chaos and scary moment for him. But Jaden Hopp still leading this race. Aaron Smith in second, and Nicholas Corsell now in third, as Aaron Smith did make that pass a little bit ago. This battle on track that we're currently watching is the closest one on track right now. Scott Shire and Tony Hilbrands, as Scott Shire is now the one who has made the most amount of positions up in this race. No, Benjamin Lacey, never mind, in fourth position, has moved up 7. Scott Shire moved up 6th. But Scott Shire is looking very, very in form at the moment. And, you know, we haven't talked about that 4 car at all today.
No, we really haven't. Scott's kind of been the underdog in this situation so far, kind of moving his way silently up through the field. I mean, we've talked a little bit about Benjamin Lacey already, the number 7 machine. But, yeah, Scott Shire, we've tuned into him a couple times, but we really haven't talked about his progress yet. But it's got to be mentioned, it's got to be known that he has definitely moved his way up from 12 spots all the way up here into 6th. Benjamin Lacey also moving up 7 spots from his start there in 11th. So, I mean, both of these drivers doing absolutely incredible here today. And as we're about to enter into our first pit cycle here, as I fail to get words out of my mouth, this is really going to kind of really make things interesting here, Gareth. I mean, it seems like a lot of these drivers are going to be on slightly different strategies than one another. We've seen James Miller and Nathan Gutierrez. They both come down into the pits already a lot earlier than what I guess is kind of expected here. Again, that pit entry or that expected pit window was about 70 to 75 laps. They came in about 10 to 15 laps earlier than that. So, you know, I think it's going to be a mixed bag of different drivers coming down into pit road at various times. And Gareth, this is definitely going to be a chess match on wheels, I think is the best way to describe this.
Yeah, no, I couldn't agree with you more, as we see Matthew Fitz and Steve Ulrich also coming down pit road. You can see there the difference in the amount of speed you can carry through the corner on fresher tyres, as James Miller and Nathan Gutierrez make their way past Tony Hilbrands, Scott Shire, and Sean Williams. Sean Williams now decides to come down pit road, so he's also joined everyone else on a slightly early strategy. But we've definitely got to see how this one plays out. I'm surprised to see that James Miller did make the move on Nathan Gutierrez down pit road. Maybe Nathan just using a little bit more time to fix up the right side of that machine down on pit road, and that gave up the spot there. But Scott Shire has now come down pit road as well, and it'll be interesting to see just when Jaden Hopp, Aaron Smith, Nicholas Corsell, these 3 front runners that have been leading for quite a while now, it'd be interesting to see just how long it takes them to come down as Nicholas Corsell, the Sour Patch machine, makes his way down pit road.
Sour Patch Kids making that entry down here, lap 71, right in the expected window, along with Tony Hilbrands, the number 92 Phenom Paint Shop machine. They're all going to start to make that expected pit stop. Jaden Hopp, Aaron Smith, they're taking the cue as well. Aaron Smith coming in real nice and hot there. Michael Keithley as well joining them down in pit road. So First green flag pit stops are underway here at Iowa Speedway, or at least they have been for quite some time. We're just now starting to see the majority of the field, start to make their way down here into pit road. And while that happens, James Miller and Nathan Gutierrez, they're going to make their way through 3 and 4 and across the checkered line. That will put them back up into the lead as they pass pit road and pass the leaders that are currently down there in the pit. So James Miller is going to now take the hot seat, and he is going to be the driver to be looking to defend that lead position. And from Nathan Gutierrez's perspective, that was a mouthful. From his perspective there in the 07 machine, I mean, we've seen the pace that Anathian has behind the wheel of that 07 machine, and the line work that he's been able to put down here at Iowa. You know, James is really going to have to kind of switch things up for his driving style, I think, if Anathian is going to be able to pull him in here. According to timing and scoring right now, James has the pace advantage, but only by they're pretty much equal at this point right now. Maybe James is just a smidge faster, but maybe only by a few hundredths of a second.
Yeah, it's very, very close in terms of pace for both of these two. Lindsay also coming out in the chat asking, why did I find a wooden shoe in my toilet today? You know what? I didn't really want to say that out loud, but I ended up doing it anyway. And I'm sure there's meant to be some sort of joke following that one up, so we'll see where Lindsay comes through with that one, and I'll keep you informed here. As Dawn Hillbrand's also coming out, I would like to say that, you know, I still haven't finished those Sour Patch. I'm only about halfway through the bag. No one else is helping me in my house, I have to admit. It's just a solo operation at this point. And I'm getting through them. They're still retaining their deliciousness, I must admit. And I'm still enjoying them every few days. You know, I might grab a couple, just a handful, and just chuck them in my mouth, and yeah, enjoying that. But anyway, so Tony Hillbrands is making his way around the track at the moment in the 9th position, just behind Scott Shire, and you can see there that's Steve Ulrich losing a spot there. I think he's gone a bit of a lap down to these drivers just ahead.
I knew it.
Oh, it's...
I knew it. I knew it was a Dutch joke. I knew it was Dutch.
I didn't actually see that one coming. So Lindsay finishing up. Why did I find a wooden shoe in my toilet today? It was clogged.
I knew it.
Yeah, that's definitely one, and I'm not gonna lie, now that makes me want to throw my own in there. So Mason, why did the Scarecrow win the award?
Why did the Scarecrow win the award? I don't know.
Because he was outstanding in his field.
Oh, God dang it.
It's so... I love how you almost walked away from your mic from the sounds of things. It was great. But that's one of like the worst ones I've ever made, and I'm so glad that I ended up making it, because that just makes it even better. I mean, what is a dad joke if not corny? As that actually works in itself, speaking of Scarecrow. But anyway, Michael Keithley has made his way around Logan Jones. They're still in quite a big fight to try and stay on the lead lap, as well as Jaden Hopp tries to make his way around. I say that, but James Miller and Nathan Gutierrez are further up down the way. However, they are on a different strategy right now. And it will be interesting. I know we've said it before, but how will this play out in terms of strategy will be very, you know, that'll be something to watch, because James Miller and Nathan Gutierrez, they came in 10 laps earlier than every other driver on the lead lap so far. And, you know, you've got to wonder if that sort of continues, because remember, they're only going to be fueled up to that 10 laps, so that's going to progress to 20 laps next time by if we stay green, 30 laps, 40 laps, and it almost makes you think that they're going to have to take a extra pit stop on top of everyone else by the time this one is said and done.
Yeah, this is like I said, towards the beginning of the broadcast, this is going to be an interesting one, and how this plays out strategy-wise for a lot of these drivers, and ultimately kind of the big question, I think, for, I mean, before coming into the show tonight, folks, and kind of analyzing the field that we had and the track conditions and just the overall landscape of tonight's race, and, you know, the big question that was kind of on my mind is there going to be a possibility of a yellow flag? Is there, I said it, that's right, I said it, is there going to be that possibility? And from what I've seen already, we're almost 100 laps into the race. It does not seem like it right now. There's still always that chance, but drivers have really got things dialed in, and we really haven't seen too many drivers start to, I guess, lose the rear end as much as we were seeing towards the beginning, especially there, as some of you were looking in before we went live during the practice, kind of a little pre-show that we have. You could kind of see some drivers really getting loose there, and as well as in qualifying, we could see some drivers, particularly out of turn 4, losing the traction out of the rear end and just not really able to keep the power down and keep these cars going down in a straight line. But as things have progressed here, as track temperatures have gotten higher, the overall racing has improved for these drivers, so I do expect that will continue to be the trend here, as we've only got right now 14 drivers out on the track. Howie Dietrich unfortunately finding himself out of the race on lap 23. And Don Hilbrand's also asking in the chat here as well, how many sets of tires do drivers have here tonight? 11 sets of tires is what they started with. So currently they have 10 sets of tires behind the wall. I'm assuming now at this point they probably have 9, given that they've used one here at this point. But they started with 11, including the one that they had underneath them at the start of the race here. So a lot of tires to work with, a lot of rubber that they can potentially burn through if they need it, and also unlimited green-white checkered attempts here if things do get a little dicey towards the end. While it's happening on our screens, though, Sean Williams and Tony Hilbrand's going to be side by side battling for the 7th place position as they come out of turn 2. Hilbrand's going to be down on the bottom of the number 89 machine, and it looks like he is going to have the pace advantage coming out of turn 4 and gets out just barely. Ooh, boy, that might have been a little bit of a slip there from Hilbrand's, as Sean Williams able to get right back up to the door, heading back into turn 1 and 2.
Yeah, Sean Williams taking great advantage of that little bobble out of the 92 machine, and Tony Hilbrand's just had a little bit of a moment coming out of the corner. It looked like he was going to head up, so I think he may have just applied the brakes just a little bit to make sure that he didn't get up and into Sean Williams during that little bit of a bobble that he had. But we're watching right now a battle for the lead with James Miller and Jaden Hopp. Aaron Smith is just there waiting in the wings as well. Remember, Jaden Hopp and Aaron Smith did come down 10 laps later than James Miller, who's fighting with them. As we can see, we're on board with the nose camera of Aaron Smith right now, making his way underneath James Miller. You can just see the left front quarter panel of that machine with Jaden Hopp right in front. And I believe this is where we're seeing those extra tire advantage come into play. And we really have to wonder, with that strategy, was it the right call for James Miller and Nathan Gutierrez to come in so early? Only time will tell as we get this one underway. But like you said earlier, Mason, you know, we're not seeing any cautions yet so far, and that is very surprising considering the amount of times we saw a car get loose and have to have basically having a lot of problems, a little bit of spins here and there, not only in practice but also in qualifying. So these drivers doing a great job so far of keeping it all together underneath them. As we're watching a little bit further back in the field, Sean Williams, Tony Hilbrand and Scott Shire all biting for this 7th place position.
Yeah, Tony Hilbrand has been here on the tail, or at least in the mirrors, of Sean Williams for quite some time. He had an opportunity a few laps ago to try and get around Sean Williams there, but unable to do so that time around, and is still looking to bring that back here as we come through turns 1 and 2 yet again, and back onto the back stretch. and they're going to take it door to door. A little bit of a snap there from Hilbrands. He's able to bring it back together. And folks, that is exactly what these drivers have to keep aware of. They have to be mindful of the track conditions as the race goes on here. You know, we've seen it throughout both really the start of the race, and as you know, still a little bit later on into this race. They're not completely out of the woods is what I'm trying to say here. They're still definitely fighting these cars on this track, but it's not as bad as what it was. But if you're not careful, if you're scrubbing off your tires, that will only get worse. You're not going to have any traction. Those tires are going to be practically bald. You're not going to be able to put down the power the same way that you would be normally able to. And remember, folks, these cars are not the same as the previous generation of cars that we were running here prior. These are the Gen 4 Cup cars, so they do have quite a bit more power than what we previously saw here, which, if I recall correctly, were the Arcas that we used to see here. So with that being said, I think it's like something like 200 or 300 horsepower difference between the cars. I'd have to go and look, but I'm pretty certain it's around that neighborhood. Gareth, you might be able to tell me if you know off the top of your head, but if not, I could go do some Google foo and find out. But either way, we're just about to reach our quarter way mark here in today's race, and folks, that's still there's still a long time left of racing here at Iowa Speedway, and I hope you have your snacks and drinks ready to go, because it is far from over here for the second crown jewel race for the Velocity Racing League 2023 Cup Series.
Yeah, we still got plenty of time to go. As you can see, the fourth driver in this pack is actually Michael Ashmore. Now, he's not part of this battle at the moment, but he has been working his way just ever so slightly just around the track, just taking his time, being very patient. He is unfortunately 18 laps behind these drivers in front, but certainly showing that he's got his own pace on this track as well, being able to keep with these drivers ahead of him. So, you know, kudos to him to keep his car out there, keep it pointed in the right direction, and, you know, just keep driving around the track, you know, just having a grand old time, just chilling out. You never know, by the end of this thing, could find himself on the lead lap. Just because you're 18 laps down and all hope seems lost doesn't necessarily mean that you're out of this thing entirely. And we've seen it time and time again where, you know, throughout all of history, really, where people will think they've got things in the bag, or they think that there's no chance, and they come out of nowhere to win it all. So you never really know how this one's going. And as you've said before earlier in the show, you know, $50 on the line, might as well just stay out there. You never know what's going to happen. As we're watching right now, it looks like Benjamin Lacey and Nicholas Corsell in the Sour Patch machine just behind, as well as Nathan Gutierrez right in front. You know, Mason, at the moment, I'm actually reading this book. It's about gravity. You know, it's impossible to put down.
You had to throw that one in there, didn't you?
I really did. It was the best way to do it, to be honest with you. I thought that was going to be the best place to put it.
That was, I think that was perfect comedic timing there, Garrett. Oh, that got me. That you got me there. They caught me off guard, that's for sure. But
I didn't think you'd see it coming.
3 wide action here developing between Corsell, Gutierrez, and Lacey as they come through turns 1 and 2. Lacey's going to get out ahead of Gutierrez. Corsell going to fall back almost behind these two, but he's going to go down to the bottom lane through 3 and 4 and tuck in right behind Benjamin Lacey and out ahead of Nathan Gutierrez. And Gutierrez here seemingly having a slower exit, or at least maybe not an ideal exit here. I'm not sure exactly what he's kind of experiencing here at the moment. Maybe there's still some damage to that car, or what the situation might be, but definitely is not having the same pace that we were seeing Gutierrez have earlier, where he was fighting for the lead and being up there in the front of the pack. very unfortunate thing to see here. I mean, Nathan has been a very strong competitor here in the 2023 season. Started off as a realistically a rookie for us up here in the broadcast booth, being the first time that we've seen him here in the series, and so far performing very well in every single race that we've seen him participate in. Some of the ovals not playing too well in his favor. Most of the road courses doing fairly well there, and having a few wins under his belt here as well. I think it was 2 wins, 3 wins, something in that neighborhood. I gotta go check here. No wins, actually. I was wrong, but he has 2 pole positions, so maybe that's where I'm getting that number from.
Well, I mean, you may also be getting that number from the fact that he won both the Open and the All-Star race. If
that's why it didn't count. Yeah, that doesn't count for points. That's correct.
Yes, so that's why they're not probably showing up there, but does definitely have at least that win, I believe so, to his name. I'm not sure why it showed Nicholas Lovell as being the winner of that race for me, but maybe that's just... Maybe I'm just seeing things. But anyway, we have Scott Shire right now following just behind the footsteps of Tony Hilbrands. And Tony Hilbrands, it looks like, is getting a little bit loose up in that high groove. Now, what we've seen so far is that high groove seems to be the way to go, really. We've seen that work a lot for a lot of these drivers, but there's only been a few, Aaron Smith being one of them, that seems to be able to run the bottom, as well as Jaden Hopp, another one, seeming to run the bottom quite well. But a lot of these drivers mid-pack seem to be favoring that high line, as Tony Hilbrands once again gets very loose. And I'm a little bit worried that 92 machine seems a lot looser than some of the other cars out there at the moment.
Yeah, it might be some issues behind the wheel. Let's go ahead and actually ride on board here with Tony and get an idea from behind. Oh boy, there it is right there. That is where he's fighting that car, and you can hear it in the throttle response as well as he tries to make his way through turns 1 and 2 here. Let's see what the exit of 2 sounds like. Very cautious. He is feathering that throttle as much as he can, and even in doing so, it's still almost too much. He has to be extremely careful here not to get this car unsettled. But the unfortunate part about it is that right now, I mean, he's able to keep up with the rest of the field, but he is also seeing Scott Shire start to close the distance and really start to put the pressure on him here, and he's really not able to get anything else out of the car right now. He is on the limit. So this is kind of a tough battle here for Tony Hilbrands, and right now he's probably got to be hoping and praying for that pit stop to come sooner rather than later. And right now pit stops are going to be around that lap 140 to 150 mark, and that's still a little ways to go.
Yeah, absolutely. There's still a ways to go indeed. As you can see, Tony Hilbrand's just jumping down a little bit further down the track as Scott Shire takes advantage and tries to make his way around the outside. That's going to be the hard way to go, but definitely been favored by most drivers, as I said last time by. And it looks like the number 4 machine is going to be able to take that spot away. So great job to Scott Shire there, as we saw Tony Hilbrand's having very much difficulty keeping that car pointed in the right direction. It looks like a battle for the lead is heating up. I'm not sure if it's happening quite so much yet, but Aaron Smith looked like he was closing the gap just the last few laps to Jaden Hopp in the front running position at the moment, but maybe losing a little bit of time just recently. We'll see how this one unfolds.
Yeah, Jaden Hopp and Aaron Smith, I mean, Jaden has been doing a phenomenal job of staying in the lead, staying in the front, and staying consistent here at Iowa, which is going to be a critical part of maintaining this spot here throughout this race. And as I mentioned just a little bit ago, we're just a little over a quarter of the way through tonight's race and still just under 300 laps left before we see that checkered flag. So a lot of time left here in today's race, and we're also seeing Michael Keithley, the number 53 machine, coming down into pit road. Okay. that was an interesting little maneuver there, but we'll keep on keeping on as lap
Well,
118.
his pit box is not that far back, so
I
not
I was
not
gonna
sure
say
what,
that didn't.
what he was doing there.
I was gonna say that seems a little far back, but hey, maybe he's having trouble with his wheel. I'm not 100% certain there, but either way, Michael Keithley is gonna come down a little bit earlier than expected here for his second pit stop of the race. Meanwhile, Sean Williams, Scott Shire, they're starting to heat things up here between themselves. The battle for 7th place starting to brew up a little bit of action here as Shire gets to the tail of that number 89 machine through turns 1 and 2, and trying to see what he can accomplish here on lap 120 of 400.
Yeah, Scott Shire looks like he's definitely figured something out on these long runs. It looks like that's where he is best, and he's catching up quite quickly to Sean Williams. Remember, not too long ago, only a couple of laps, he was passing Tony Hilbrand, so the number 4 machine found a lot of pace here in the long runs, and also changing his colors from the traditional green that we have often seen that number 4 machine run to pink. I'm not sure if that's a special livery just for tonight, or if he's keeping that for the long run. Potential change in some subsidiary sponsors, but we still see the Fox logo on the hood, so that one not changing hands, which is good to see as a title sponsor for the whole race so far. But James, or the whole series, but James Miller coming down pit road, and he's going to be taking 4 freshies as well as some fuel, so he's going to find himself down pit road, which begs the question, and Nathan Gutierrez came down with him last pit cycle. He's going to be coming down very, very shortly, and then he's going to be relinquishing that 5th place spot to Sean Williams and Scott Shire battling for that position.
Yeah, Scott Shire, Tony Hilbrands continue the battle for 7th. On your screen, the battle for the lead, or at least what is shaping up to be the battle for the lead, as Aaron Smith is just now within a quarter of a second of our race leader. Jaden Hopp doing a phenomenal job of just clicking off laps here and staying consistent, not trying to let Aaron get into his mind too much here, and really trying to avoid looking into those rear view mirrors all too much. And I think Jaden has got that down pretty well here. He hasn't really been bothered too much by a lot of these drivers here tonight. And 3 wide action as we tune to it between Sean Williams, Scott Shire, and I believe that's actually James Miller, who's just coming out of pit road here on lap 120. So James Miller going to be having a few quite a few lap fresher tires than the rest of the field. Nathan Gutierrez also taking the cue to come down here into pit road as well. So again, some of these drivers opting to take a shorter pit stop strategy than what we were expecting to see from a lot of these drivers. But I mean, again, like Gareth, like you mentioned, that's just really going to kind of be an interesting development for later in tonight's race. How is that going to kind of shape up in the long term? How is that going to shape things up when it's lap 300? How is it going to shape up when it's lap 350? Our drivers are going to be putting themselves in situations where they need to come in when it's 20 laps, 10 laps left to go. I mean, I understand that, pit strategy or strategy in general, race strategy in general, isn't always an easy thing to kind of figure out, especially if you're a solo driver just trying to learn things, and be a part of a series. But man, oh man, that's definitely going to be a bold strategy at best.
Yeah, absolutely. And we have Dawn Hilbrands actually asking what kind of adjustments, if any, can drivers make during these pit stops. Well, they can choose whether they want 2 tires or 4. They can choose even 1 tire if they feel that desperate, I believe.
They certainly can. They certainly can.
They can choose exactly how much fuel they want, although not taking any less than full. Taking any less than full would be an interesting call, especially during these long green flag runs. And I believe they may be able to, like they do in reality NASCAR, where they have a track bar adjuster. I believe they have something very similar inside these machines that they can actually adjust as well as brake bias. So if these drivers are using any brakes at all, which I believe they are using a little bit, they can adjust depending on how the car is pushing into the corner or getting loose. They can adjust those brakes to make the car have a little bit more of a front end push or really a rear end looseness, depending on how they feel the car is handling, to really get them dialed in to where they want it, especially coming into play when there's long green flag runs like what we're seeing right now. And you can adjust the car to suit your driving style, as we can see Michael Ashmore a little bit high and into the wall just behind the leaders, and it looks like he's going to be okay. Steve Ulrich has been down pit road for about 3 minutes at this point, so he's getting some damage repaired as Tony Hilbrands makes his way under green for his second pit stop cycle.
Yeah, taking a look at the number 52 machine, we can see him down here in the pit box. He's not up on the jacks, he's not getting serviced at the moment, so I would have to imagine that there is either some ulterior damage to the car or something that we can't see, or perhaps even Steve is just, he's called it a night here and is going to retire from the race. We'll just have to wait and see if that 52 machine ends up going back into the trailer or not here. But on your screen now, Jaden Hopp, Aaron Smith, still in this little bit of a loose battle that we have here for the lead, with Jaden Hopp still staying in the lead. And we're approaching our second pit stall, or excuse me, our second pit window for these two drivers. Going to be very, very soon before these two need to come down into the pits for fuel at the very, very least. I mean, they could stay out longer if they wanted to, if they had more fuel with these tires. Granted, I wouldn't recommend it, but they could if they wanted to. It would definitely be a very interesting race between these two. Aaron Smith going to be down on the inside, though, as they come through turns 1 and 2. Going to see if he can get the exit speed out of 2 on the back straightaway. Will it be enough to get by Jaden Hopp? It will not. Almost gets to the door of the 81 machine. Going to try it again here through 3 and 4. He's going to have the momentum out of 4 to make it happen, and it's not going to be enough this time by. Aaron Smith going to continue for his fight in the lead.
Yeah, now remember that Jaden Hopp has those yellow banners and markings letting you know that he is a crown jewel driver. Aaron Smith in the yellow banana does not have those specific markings. He is just a yellow car, an imposter, if you will. So he's not going to be actually a crown jewel driver. However, still biting for that $50 prize money at the end of the race, even if he can't win the 100, and trying to make sure that Jaden Hopp does not take away that extra $50 that is coming his way. So there's definitely a battle going on here as they're catching up to Sean Williams just in front. Now Sean Williams is on the lead lap, so he has the right to fight tooth and nail to stay on the lead lap in front of these two drivers. And if he decides to do so, that could really impact the run that one of these guys has.
Well, and the other thing to note here as well, I mean, Sean Williams, oh boy, right as he gets into the wall here through 3 and 4, the other note I was going to point out here is the fact that Sean Williams came in just a few laps earlier than that of Jaden Hopp and Aaron Smith. Granted, only by 3 laps, but that's still going to be enough that, I mean, it's really showing the pace difference here between these drivers. And it could also just be that Sean has maybe burned through his rubber a little bit faster than what he was expecting to, which is a completely valid possibility here for a lot of these drivers. This track is not going to be easy on tires, and as we see Sean Williams coming across the line into pit road, a little bit of a slide there as he gets onto the brakes, trying not to get himself a speeding penalty here in pit road. Definitely not something that you want to have here at this point in the race. I mean, you can kind of sacrifice it a little bit, but you're definitely sacrificing a lot at this point, I would have to say. But lap 141 of 400 as our leader Jaden Hopp comes across the line with Aaron Smith right in tow. The lean, mean yellow banana right on the hunt here for the lead. And as Gareth was saying, the imposter crowned Jewel Challenger, even though he's not intentionally doing that. That's just always what his car looks like. Honestly, folks, you should see the settings that Aaron Smith races with. Gareth, have you seen it?
I have not, no.
Oh man. Oh, you guys
Describe
are
it to me in one word.
atrocious.
All right, sounds good.
If you could, okay, folks, I will picture this for you because I'm sure some of you will probably remember this. If you can remember those old, like the old crappy arcade games, the racing arcade games, you know, with oh boy, right as I'm saying that, Benjamin Lacey having some issues here in the number 7 machine. It looks like he was trying to come down into pit road, but might have overshot it and had to abort mission there. But as I was saying, yeah, if you remember those old racing games, you know, that all pixelated and all that, so that's basically what Aaron Smith is racing on. It looks absolutely horrible. I mean, no disrespect to Aaron, I commend the fact that he actually races on that. That's more or less the thing that I am just astonished by, is that he endures that for the sake of racing. I commend him for that.
Well, speaking of, Aaron Smith coming down pit road along with Benjamin Lacey and Nicholas Corsell. The Sour Patch Kids machine is down pit road, as well as the Lean Mean Yellow Banana and the Filming the Wild cars, all down pit road together. So we're going to see how this one plays out with Jaden Hopp. And yes, Jaden Hopp immediately decides to come down pit road the lap behind Aaron Smith, not wanting to get stretched out too far away from Aaron Smith, as that will only cause the gap to be bigger and potentially lose that spot to Aaron Smith actually on the pit cycle. So James Miller is going to take over the race lead, as he did come into his pit stall 26 laps ago. So he's going to be running on a little bit older tires. And again, that gap continues to increase as he decided to come down pit road a little bit earlier than everyone else on the first round of pit stalls by about 10 laps. And now he's about 20 or so laps ahead, or earlier pitting, than Jaden Hopp. And I was going to say Aaron Smith as well. So that is certainly going to play a factor here if we continue green for the rest of this race. That is certainly going to mean that he's going to have an extra pit stop by the end of this one. And we're not sure if that's going to be the smart decision, but he's made that call now and he's got to stick with it. Aaron Smith saying whoops in the chat. What's happened to him, as he came down pit road but is now showing a couple of laps down? What's happened to Aaron Smith?
That is a good question.
Did he get a speeding and pit road penalty?
Oh, Aaron's gonna have to fill us in here a little bit.
Oh
no! Oh, Aaron. Oh.
Well, that was right as we panned the camera away from him as well the first time we were watching it live. Oh, that's awful.
Oh, Aaron. That is tough. And folks, I mean, that just goes to show, if there isn't a better example of how difficult the pit road entry is here at Iowa, I don't think there's a better example of it. I mean, Aaron Smith is a very, very seasoned driver here with Velocity Racing League, and I mean,
Maybe you couldn't see it because it's only one pixel on the screen. Sorry, I just felt like I had to say that one.
Oh, that got me. But needless to say, that he said he was watching Jaden and missed the braking point and threw it away. That, folks, and that just, man, that is going to be all she wrote here for the Lean Mean Yellow Banana. Aaron Smith coming up and saying, hey, I made a mistake, and you know, that's how easy it is to put yourself out of a race. You know, just not paying attention or being focused on something else or hyper fixed on something going on the track. It happens in the blink of an eye, and unfortunately for Aaron Smith, it is going to be the end of his race tonight, as that was quite a hit to the front end of that number 70 machine, and I can't imagine that anything up there in the front, I mean, trans radiator, actual radiator, I mean, anything up there in the front end, it's going to take quite a beating, and it's going to take quite some time to get repaired.
I mean, not just the radiator, you got the engine. You get the entire heartbeat of the vehicle basically at the front of that under the hood. So yeah, that's gonna be probably the end to his competitive race, and potentially the entire race. We'll see if he comes back out or not. But at the moment, James Miller still leading this group, and it looks like Jaden Hopp is whittling down that lead quite significantly with 25 laps of fresher tires underneath that car. Nathan Gutierrez sitting in the third place spot with a little bit of company from Nicholas Corsell, who looks like he is gaining quite quickly. Again, Corsell also one of those drivers who has 20 laps fresher than Gutierrez right in front. So that Sour Patch Kids machine has been showing a whole lot of speed though since basically the green flag drop.
Yeah, Corsell's been on a mission here tonight. He has really shown some great pace here. And looking at the results from last week's race for the All-Star, Corsell actually came away with a fourth place finish last week. So, I mean, he knows what he's doing around here, and he's looking to kind of improve upon that position and potentially come away with at least a podium. It looks like he is really seeking to get into that podium spot, maybe even a little bit further up the field here, but he's also, as indicated by the spoiler as well as his banner in the windshield, you can obviously see that he is competing for the crown jewel here tonight. So one of the other drivers here looking to come away with $100 extra in their pocket here tonight. But as Jaden Hopp catches up to the leader of James Miller in the 09 machine, he's going to make that pass down on the bottom of the race track here through 3 and 4 and across the checkered line. And Jaden Hopp with 20 lap fresher tires than that of James Miller. It is going to be an easy pass here for Jaden. And unfortunately, James is going to be left in the dust here. But James Miller obviously on a very different strategy than that of the rest of the field. And we're still kind of awaiting to see how this is going to shape up here for James Miller, and realistically also for Nathan Gutierrez, who's kind of running a similar strategy at this point in the race. Both of these drivers kind of running a short stop, if you will. That doesn't really make any sense. That's a baseball term. But anyway, point being here, both of these drivers, they're going on a shorter strategy than everybody else, and we'll just have to wait and see how that's going to develop as the race goes on. And also seeing here, Michael Ashmore, he is being very cautious of other drivers around the track here. He's not trying to get himself into any sort of pickles here. And as you can see on on his race car, you can see the hazard warning sign, the slow sign there as well. He is making it well known to other drivers that you want to avoid this car as much as possible. But Michael Ashmore, I mean, doing a phenomenal job of keeping himself in the race and just being a part of the action. It's very easy to just hit that tow button and just take it behind the wall, but it's another thing to keep out there and keep racing, even though you know that you're not exactly going to come away with anything special, to bring home to the family, I guess you could say.
Yeah, but first and foremost, the number one thing is to have fun and enjoy what you're doing. And if he's got the time and he's already said to whoever else or whatever else he's got to do, is like, hey, I'm going to be involved in this race, and if you don't have terminal damage, you might as well just keep going just for the fun of it, if nothing else. And it's great to see him stay out there on track, and I can definitely sympathize with that, and I'm very happy to see him continue on here. As we see right now, you're going to see Benjamin Lacey making his way around Matthew Fitz, as well as Nathan Gutierrez just behind Benjamin Lacey now, as those two are in a battle. Matthew Fitz is a lap down from these two drivers, but certainly not out of the woods, as he is right next to this battle. And Nathan Gutierrez, as we said earlier, 20 laps older tires than Benjamin Lacey, and really than everyone else except for James Miller. He and Miller are the only two drivers on that strategy that will require an extra stop. Should this one go green the whole way, and Nathan Gutierrez, a very, very big slide. Great job from the 07 machine to keep that one underneath him. And, you know, Mason, did you hear about the guy who invented the knock-knock joke?
Oh, why do I feel like I know this one? You know, I haven't got invented the knock-knock joke. Oh gosh, I don't know.
Well, I heard he won the Nobel Prize. It's so bad. It's so bad.
It took me a second to process that. It took literally a second to process that. I was like, Nobel Prize? Oh, Nobel Prize.
Yeah, Nobel.
That's a good one. I like that one.
It's so bad. I feel like I should stop, but at the same time it becomes like almost like an addiction. Like you just can't stop.
You gotta have more dad jokes.
Like, oh, Mason, like I've got a great joke about construction, right? But I'm still working on it. You know what I mean? Like you just can't stop when you start. It's just intoxicating.
You know, I feel like you need to write your own book of dad jokes, Gareth.
Well, the problem is I have a week between when we race and when we next race, so I've got all these dad jokes that I find and that I use, you know, or from anyone around me and my family. We all love dad jokes, so I try and grab as many as I can and I just write them down, and I prepare them for this race as Dawn Hillbrands as an emoji of a face palm ended up in the chat. So yeah, probably well deserving of that one right there.
Well, folks, it's lap 169 of 400. It has been some great racing thus far, and the field is pretty much at the point now where it's calm, it's quiet, it's steady, and unfortunately, we've already seen 4 drivers of our 15 fall out of the race and taken their cars back into their trailers here. So, I mean, unless we kind of see, I really don't want to say it, but unless we see that dreaded yellow flag fly out here, this is kind of going to be a little bit of the trend here for some time until we, see some drivers kind of build on that pace and really start to kind of pull each other back together here. But unless we see that yellow flag come out here and kind of restack the field and give drivers another opportunity to kind of continue to fight for positions, it's all going to come down to attrition. It's going to be a matter of consistency and being able to hit your marks every single lap. So with that being said, and now that drivers have gotten into their second set of tires here, this is the point in the race where it's all just going to come down to putting your head down and staying focused and not letting things get to you. I would say this is probably going to be the hardest part of the race, just keeping yourself from not getting distracted behind the wheel. I mean, almost 200 laps, a little over 200 laps now until the end, and I mean, already I could just sense, some drivers getting behind the wheel and just, seeing a light flicker or something happen on their screen, or their cat jumps off the table behind them and they get distracted. I mean, there's just so many little distractions that could easily turn your race from great to horrible in the blink of an eye.
Oh, absolutely. I actually am. I've talked to a driver in the past in a different series, and he's told me before it's so annoying when he's just driving in sim and he'll be in like a very, very big battle, and all of a sudden his cat jumps on his lap looking for attention. So, that kind of stuff, that could just happen. And that's a bit brutal, as it looks like James Miller is fighting tooth and nail to keep that car underneath him for the moment as the sun goes down. It looks like sunset is coming up this way, and you can see the change in the track lighting. Just looks like sunset is coming up, which is going to be changing the track conditions here. over time, ever so slowly, but definitely something these drivers are going to have to adjust to. And James Miller, once again, you know, he's on that strategy. He's got a lot older tires than some of the other guys around him, and we should be expecting him to pit, I want to say, around lap 90, so he shouldn't be too far away from his scheduled pit window here.
Yeah,
As he has another big bobble, thankfully manages to keep it together.
yeah, Miller is definitely, he is getting close actually to where he needs to come back down into pit road, and if he's gonna kind of keep on the trend that he's been on, where he's coming in earlier than that of the rest of the field, usually about 60 to 65 laps is where we've seen James Miller kind of start to bring that car down into pit road. Whether or not he's going to want to bring that car down earlier or later kind of remains to be seen, but from what we're seeing right now from the 09 driver, as he's, like Garrett just mentioned, he's struggling to keep this car going in a straight line. And folks, as Gareth also mentioned, the sun is starting to set here. That is going to have huge implications in how this race is kind of going to develop here. Track temperatures are going to start to come down. In theory, you should start to be able to get a little bit more grip out of this track once the lights start to turn on and things aren't as nearly as hot on the racetrack. And granted, and also given the fact that there's only 11 drivers currently out on the track, so going to potentially see things improve for the drivers once that sun officially comes all the way down over the horizon. But there's still a few more laps to turn before that happens, and as we're seeing with James Miller here, it's not going to be an easy time until that happens, especially if you are on the strategy that he's currently on, as well as Nathan Gutierrez is also on. We're looking at that 07 driver now alongside with Jaden Hopp, who Nathan right now is trying to prevent himself from going down a lap. And as we say that, James Miller down into pit road. Will Nathan follow here the next lap by, or will he stay out a little bit longer?
Yeah, if judging from what we've seen in the past, Nathan Gutierrez will stay out for another 5 to 10 laps before coming down. James Miller came down a little bit earlier than I was expecting as well, about 10 laps earlier than I was expecting him to come down. But I will say that, you know, these drivers are doing a fantastic job so far of keeping the car underneath them. With these changing conditions and everything else, there is a lot going on behind the wheel, and these drivers' arms, I'm sure, are already sore. And we're not even halfway through this thing. Michael Ashmore has looked like he has come in, and he's still down pit road for about 4 minutes at this point. And it looks like he is going to be our first of the retirees, which includes Aaron Smith, Steve Ulrich, Michael Keithley, and Howie Dietrich.
Very unfortunate to see all the drivers that have taken it behind the wall here already, due to various reasons. But, you know, from a driver's perspective for a race like this, I mean, this is in the Velocity Racing League schedule, this is a full-length race. So meaning this is as close as it gets to being in an actual Cup Series race, if you will, racing the full distance and being behind the wheel for the same amount of time as the real-life counterpart drivers are. So I mean, this is an endurance test for these drivers, and I don't like to say the word endurance race too much because that might upset some of our viewers, but it is an endurance for these drivers. They do experience a lot of physical stress behind the wheel trying to keep these cars going in the right direction, and I say this a lot in a lot of broadcasts that we do here, but if you haven't tried it yourself, I highly recommend you do so. Get yourself behind the wheel and just turn a few laps. Just have a little bit of fun, and you know, you don't even have to race any real cars. You can go out there by yourself and just turn some laps and see what time you can pull, but just give yourself an idea of what it's like to actually drive these cars and try and keep them going in a straight line and be fast in them, because folks, it not only is it a lot of fun, but it's also challenging, and I think it translates very well into the real world in as far as reaction times and being observant of the things around you. It's all in all just a great hobby to kind of have on the side if it's something that you're interested in. But if not, and if you just enjoy watching the racing, that's also perfectly acceptable as well.
Yeah, it's one of those things that does take up quite a bit of time though. So, you know, you definitely have to have the time to invest into it as well as not just the monetary side of things, but you know, definitely well worth it, as I can say from my own personal experience. It took me a very long time to get into it, but you know, it's one of those things that it feels very rewarding. And you know what else? Not even just in the VRL Cup Series, on the entirety of the sim racing really world and community, but especially in VRL as well, everyone is super um, just super accommodating, super lovely, super nice to meet, and everyone will treat you with the utmost respect. Of course, you get a few bad eggs here and there, but what community doesn't have those? As you know, definitely something, if you're even slightly thinking about it, just do it, get into it. Trust me, you'll be very, very happy you did. And as Mason said, you know, you'll get a feel just in a couple laps of how it is to drive. And you know, me coming from an Australian background, we didn't really have a whole lot of NASCAR, and my parents, or oval racing in general, and my parents never understood my fascination with why it's so interesting to me, because you know, all they do is go fast and they turn left and that's about it. But there's, once you delve into it, you know, on face value maybe, but when you delve into it, there's a lot of intricate details and a lot of thinking that comes out of it. As Dawn Hillbrands asks how many drivers are on the lead lap, and you can see right there, Jaden Hopp, Nicholas Corsell, Benjamin Lacey, the only ones on the lead lap so far, according to our live timing and scoring. As it looks like Gutierrez, we've been watching for a little bit now, as Scott Shire's trying to make that pass into the top 4 spots. Gutierrez has a little bit of a loose race car, even still after all this time on that high side line. It just looks like he's getting a little bit loose on corner exit. So might have to watch this one. And what I'm seeing actually, Mason, to try and give you a little bit of a lead up to a conversation, because I've talked for non-stop now. When out of these corners, it looks like the cars are getting incredibly loose. And I'm just wondering if that low side line has a bit more grip to it at this point, because when you see a driver coming off that low side, it doesn't look like they're getting as loose as they are when they're up high.
Yeah, so that's really going to be attributed to the track temperature. As the night goes on, as the track temperature starts to come down, that middle lane is going to really start to have a huge impact on these drivers' ability to keep their pace up here, as we see a Nathan Gutierrez come down into pit road after, I think, just over 70 laps. So trying to keep up with the rest of the field here and stay in relatively the same ballpark as the rest of the field. But yeah, as the race goes on here, though, that middle to high lane is not going to drive nearly as well as it did when track temperatures were a little bit hotter, and really drivers were kind of able to I guess you could say, oh, what's the word that I'm looking for here? They're able to slide it a little bit more out of both turns 2 and 4 out of that middle group. But now that track temperatures are coming down, they're starting to get a little bit more grip in those tires. They really have to kind of utilize that bottom lane a little bit more to get all of that grip that they need to stay in a straight line here. And I think a lot of these drivers are starting to realize that here, as we're just a few laps before that sun starts to fully set here, and I think by about lap 250 we will be racing underneath the lights here. And looks like we've got Mr. Carl Fitz here in the chat saying, I have a great time racing with my son Matt in 2 other leagues on Sundays and Wednesday nights. I'm getting better every week. And that is absolutely fantastic to hear, you know, and that's one of the great things that I love about the sim racing world, and particularly about services like iRacing, is that it really allows you to learn about racing and really kind of hone your craft. And it really does translate into the real world. If, you know, it's not going to be a one-to-one experience, but there are certain things that you will kind of learn, muscle memory, if you will, that kind of comes along with the experience that you will be able to translate over into your real-world racing experiences if you happen to have any of that in your arsenal, I guess you could say. But you know, Gareth, I mean, I haven't had any opportunities to race any real-life race cars yet, but I'm more than certain that if I ever do, I'm going to be more than excited for it, and I hopefully won't be too, I guess, ill-familiar with what I'm doing, as given that not every race car is the same and not every car is going to drive the same, but hopefully I have enough information behind me to make it happen.
Yeah, I certainly think you would, Mason. You know, with any kind of motorsport, you know, a lot of the people who drive in sim racing, you know, you can get anyone from people who don't do it at all to people who are absolute pros at it that race on the sim just as enjoyment, maybe competitively as well. And you know that I don't do any competitive racing myself either. I've done a couple of small go-kart races here and there just for fun, not competitively at all. But you know, the biggest difference is really your neck muscles. You don't really use them a whole lot when you're in sim. Even if you drive around in VR, you're not using them too much, and they really, you notice the G-forces when you're going around a corner a bit too quickly, and that will really snap you back to, oh wow, I'm actually driving a real vehicle. But in terms of, you know, your arm movements and your legs and all that, they all feel very similar, as James Miller and Logan Jones have both come down pit road. Tony Hilbrand's Dawn was asking earlier, the 92 made an extra stop, question mark, what happened? Why is he 4 laps down? And you know, I noticed that about Tony a little while ago, I have to admit. I didn't bring it to your attention, Mason, so that is my bad as well. But it seemed like during those second round of pit stops, he may have stayed there for a little bit longer than for a lot longer than other drivers needed to be, as his last time down in the pit time was actually 43.8 seconds. The average pit time is anywhere from 14 to 16 seconds. So he's been down there for about half a minute longer last time by, and we certainly wonder why, as it may have even been something like a speeding penalty.
Looking at timing and scoring here, kind of looking at some of the info that we've gotten here. It looks like he came in on lap 130. He was down in pit road for about 47 seconds, almost 48 seconds. He left pit road, and then he came back down pit road again the next lap by, and was down there again for another 47 seconds and left again. And now he's back down there once again for the 4th time here on lap 2. For him, it's lap 200, but for the race, it's 207. So I'm not sure what kind of issues that Tony is having here. Let's see if I can take a look at this instant replay and see if there's some sort of clue as to what might have happened here for Tony to make him want to come down into pit road. I'm not seeing anything right off the get-go. Doesn't seem like he came into pits too fast there. I'm at a loss here, Gareth.
Well, the only thing I can think of is if he's come down pit road multiple times for 40-second stops, there is, if you speed on pit road, you will either have a drive-through, or if you get too many incidents, it will give you a stop and hold, which will be around about the 40-second mark. So potentially getting a few too many incident points here and having to serve a speeding violation or something of that nature, to where he had to have a stop and hold. If he was speeding again when he was doing his first stop and hold, it would give him another one. So if he's had 2 in a row, that could be the reasons why. Thankfully, no damage from the look of his machine, and that last stop was a perfectly acceptable,
I know what it is,
normal stop at 15 seconds, and I guess you're going to tell us.
Unfortunately, folks, I have information from Race Control that the 92 has been black flagged by iRacing. I don't have any further information as to...
Whoa,
Whoa!
Scott Shire not going to make that one. He's going to have to pull back onto the race surface. Thankfully, not doing anything worse. That was shades of Aaron Smith for a second there, but thankfully staying out on track. That's going to hurt him big time in terms of timing, but will save him the lots of damage that would have come his way otherwise if he would have stayed on his course as he was going down pit road, and he's going to make it down without any problem now as Sean Williams is also joining him in pit road.
Yeah, so I'm just still kind of baffled by the fact that Tony's been given a black flag here, and I'm still kind of at a loss as for what reason. I'm trying to run through all of the possibilities in my head as to why iRacing would decide to give him a black flag. I think it might be something to do with perhaps speeding in pit road or something along those lines.
The only reasons that I know of are speeding in pit road, either exit or entry, entering closed pits, which they haven't been because we've been running green the whole time. There is a specific issue, and it's super rare, but I have had it once happen to me, and it is the most annoying thing it can happen to you on iRacing, if you ask me, is you can actually, I've done this before, where I had a blip. So, like, I had an internet connection issue right as I crossed the start-finish line, and iRacing decided that that lap didn't count, and that I actually somehow cut the entire track in iRacing's brain. So that actually could cost him a black flag out of nowhere there as well. So I'm hoping that didn't happen to him, because I've had that before, and that is possibly the most frustrating thing you can have, as you have literally no control over it, and if it happens at that exact wrong moment, it can ruin your race entirely.
Yeah, and looking at the message from Race Control as well, it came
the incident limits as well. Sorry, Mason. I'm just
you're okay. I think he might have. I think he might have sped in pit road, because based on the message from Race Control, it came in about 30 minutes ago, so I don't think it would have happened on race start. I think, unfortunately for Tony Hilbrands, he might have not been paying attention or something along those lines when he was exiting pit road, or even entering, like you mentioned. I don't know all the details right now, but unfortunately for Tony, he is just going to be racing until the end and just going to finish where he can, but unfortunately it's not going to count for anything, as he has been served that black flag, and he's unfortunately not going to be racing for any more positions or really points at this point, if I'm not mistaken, unless he's able to keep his position, which right now he holds on to 9th at this moment. And it looks like, actually, as well, we've had another driver fall out of the race, Mr. James Miller, in the 09 machine. So unless he's already, no, he did. He left the race about lap 200, and that 09 machine is back in the trailer, and he's going to be watching it from the comfort of the air-conditioned trailer that they have there down in pit road. So, I mean, Gareth, we've seen a lot of strong, talented drivers fall out of this race, and it's all coming down to really the final few. And ultimately, at this point, we've kind of touched on this already a little bit in this broadcast, or at least a little bit earlier, is that this is coming down, or has been, a matter of just staying consistent at this point in the race. As Jaden Hopp makes his way down into pit road, there's really not a whole lot of room left for error here, as we are entering into the final half. We have entered into the final half of our race here, and it's, I mean, with no real indication of I hate saying this word, but no indication of a yellow flag in sight here. It's really going to be tough for these drivers to make any sort of gains happen on any opponents around them, unless we see that field restacked and kind of give drivers another opportunity at fighting for positions. But until that happens, unless that happens, it's just a matter of consistency here at this point. And as we are just over halfway in this race here today, I just want to take a quick moment to thank each and every single one of you for tuning in here today and being a part of the show. These broadcasts definitely cannot happen without all of you lovely viewers being a part of it every single week. And for those of you, for those specific few of you that are here every single week that we see in the chat, speaking mostly to you, Don, and Lindsay, and as well as Carl Fitz, I know that you're in here every now and then. I know there's a few others that are here every now and then, but needless to say, you guys make this all happen, and we appreciate having you guys here every single week to talk to. So thank you all for watching and being a part of the action, and hopefully the race is still going on very well, and hopefully is still entertaining for you folks to watch at home, or at least to have on in the background as, you know, enjoy yourself a Monday night, and hopefully get ourselves ready for what will be almost about 150 laps left here in the Heartland 400.
Yeah, couldn't have said it better myself, Mason. Yeah, I'd like to thank everyone as well. And, you know, Dawn Hillbrand's actually asking, so no, absolutely no speeding on pit road, no penalty. How does anything work? Well, she didn't exactly phrase it that way, but that's the way I read it. No, Dawn, so effectively what happened was, because it's just like in reality, you know, just like in the NASCAR Cup Series in the real world, what they have is they have an average speed in certain sectors, and if he sped a little bit, maybe a mile or two over, as long as he's a mile or two under for the same amount of time, it'll even out, and that is all good. But if he stays too much faster, either on entry or on exit after the pit stall, then that will count as a speeding in pit road penalty. And if you get one of those, judging from the fact that he spent 40 seconds in his pit stall, I would say that the penalty was a stop and hold for 40 seconds. So he was required by iRacing to come down pit road in the next 3 laps after being served that penalty. And he has to come down all the way down pit road, sit in his pit stall for 40 seconds before he is allowed to return back out on the pit exit and get back onto the track. So it looks like that is exactly what happened to him, and yeah, that basically that sums that one up. And yeah, so we've also got Dawn and Carl Fitz as well saying that they're here. There's nowhere else to be better on Mondays than when this league is going on. And Carl Fitz saying he's here every week. He just stays silent all of the time. And you know what? If you want to stay silent, that is more than acceptable. We're just very, very happy to see everyone tuning in as they often do. And, you know, joining us here, if you've got nothing else to do Monday nights, definitely come in and enjoy the show. Hopefully we can put on a good one for you. And as well as these drivers, I must say, they're doing the hard yards. We're just talking and showing you some pretty pictures without trying to undermine our job, Mason. But yeah, it's been fantastic. And Scott Shire right now, you can see making his way around Tony Hillbrands. Hillbrands is a lap down or more behind Scott Shire at the moment. And you can see there that Nicholas Corcel and the Sour Patch Machine is actually in the second place spot, getting very, very close to Tony Hillbrands. Not sure if they heard that in the spectator area or not, Mason, but I certainly heard you pucker up a little bit.
Oh, that got me on the edge of my seat, folks. I was watching that, and boy, oh boy, Tony Hillbrands is, I mean, you know, even despite having the, you know, the more or less, I mean, in the grand scheme of things, he wasn't served a black flag by race control themselves. It was an iRacing decision, so realistically, he had no control over the matter. But he's still out here. He's going to continue his race regardless. And I mean,
I feel like I just want to bring this up. Sorry, Mason. I just want to bring this up quickly because Dawn has asked me if he served the penalty, why is he not being scored anymore? He is being scored. I believe that may have just been a little bit of confusion because I think the way, whether it was the way Mason worded it or I worded it or some kind of miscommunication. He is still being scored. Don't worry about that. It's just that he's several laps down, and it's unlikely that he's going to be towards the front of the pack at the end of this race. But we never know. There's still plenty of time to go, and it looks like we're being shown that even though he is 4 laps down, you know, you never know how this one could play out. He is still being scored on the penalty side of thing, on the actual live timing tower. Don't worry about that, Dawn. Sorry about the confusion.
Yeah, excuse me. I definitely didn't mean to put any confusion out there to anyone watching. I could be wrong in my assumption in that, but Tony will still be actively scored in timing and scoring and all that. But as far as how race results are going to be played out after the race is done, I'm not sure what kind of admin decisions are going to be made as far as that. I don't know all the details and how all of that works post-race, but I would have to imagine that 9th place is where Tony currently sits. I don't think he's going to lose that position, but it's still a very unfortunate situation regardless of how it plays out here for Tony. I mean, Tony's had just a rough season, man. I mean, he's had 2022, I mean, he was fighting so hard to be at the front of the pack, and this season he was very fired up to try and be there up at the front and being one of the key runners here in this season, and still just finding himself in a lot of unfortunate situations, whether it be in the beginning of the race or at the end of the race. Particularly, we've seen him kind of run into situations at the end of races where he's running very strong and just one little mistake kind of cost him the whole thing, and it's just been a rough ride here for Tony Hilbrands trying to make the best of his 2023 season. But here today, let's go ahead and round through our field here as it currently stands. We haven't really done this in a little while, and really at all throughout this race here, as things have settled out, things are calm out here on track, and we are just about to hit 2 hours into our broadcast here. Not exactly 2 hours into our race. We're just about 20 minutes away from that, but 2 hours into our broadcast here. It's lap 239 of 400, and Jaden Hopp currently leads the field and has been for quite some time with about a 14 and a half second gap separating himself and Nicholas Corcel in second place. Benjamin Lacey sits in 3rd place at the moment, up 8 spots from where he started at the beginning of today's race. Currently the biggest mover and shaker in the field. Just behind him is Sean Williams, the number 89 driver, currently in 4th place, up 5 spots from where he started in 9th at the beginning of today's race. Scott Shire going to be given the honorary Hard Charger award at this point, up 7 spots from where he started in 12th place here in 5th at the moment. And Nathan Gutierrez in 6th place, going to be down 3 spots from where he started in 3rd place. A very strong start that Nathan had here at the beginning of today's race, but unfortunately, due to a little bit of damage to that front end and probably some other issues happening behind the wheel of that number 07, he's down here in 6th and still trying to keep himself in this spot, as we're still seeing a little bit of fight being given from a Nathan to that 07 machine. 7th place is Matthew Fitz. He's in the same spot where he started, along with Logan Jones in that number 3 machine. Both of these drivers have remained in 7th and 8th place respectively throughout today's race. So consistency being the name of the game, I think these two have managed to accomplish just that. Tony Hilbrands currently on our screens. We've talked about him for quite a while just a minute ago, but unfortunately going to be down 4 spots from where he started in 5th here in 9th place at the moment, being served a black flag just a little while ago, and unfortunately having to come through pit road to serve a few what we assume to be drive-through penalties, and having to spend a little bit more time than desired down there in his pit box. So he's going to be down a few laps and just trying to keep himself into the mix of things. James Miller in 10th place. He's out of the race at the moment, currently watching the race from down in pit road, as Michael Ashmore sits in 11th place behind him, the number 98 machine. Going to be down quite a few laps here, almost 70 laps, but still keeping in the race even despite that. He's just here for the fun of it and to keep racing with his friends. Aaron Smith, Steve Ulrich, Michael Keithley, and Howie Dtre round out your final 12th through 15th place positions here. All of these drivers have exited the race, and our first yellow flag of the night is here. Tony Hilbrands and our race leader, Jaden Hopp, both involved in this one. Gareth, this is huge.
I honestly don't know how to react. It's just, this feels like it. Whoa, and it looks like a solo car spin, potentially from Tony Hilbrands. It looks like Logan Jones got into the wall, but nothing too much doing. Maybe throwing off Tony Hilbrands' focus just a little bit. Hilbrands checked up and got into the side of Jaden Hopp. Oh, the mums are going to be fighting in the paddock area.
We got to get security down over to where Don and Lindsay are down there, as I'm sure they are going to be exchanging some words. I'm only kidding, you two, but both Tony and Jaden here. I mean, Jaden, this is just unfortunate for Jaden. Both of these drivers, ultimately. I mean, Tony was just really just carrying a little bit too much speed out of turn 2 and losing that rear end just a little bit. And Jaden Hopp, I mean, I'm sure he probably saw it happening. He probably read it. He read the writing on the wall well before it happened. But, you know, Gareth, I don't know if you can kind of, speak for me here, or at least share a similar experience here. But I've been in races on ovals, or even in road courses as well, where, you know, you can see the wreck happening in front of you, and you want to react, but you end up reacting the wrong way or end up doing nothing. And I feel like Jaden just kind of experienced a little bit of that there.
I think Jaden was a little bit too close to be able to do a whole lot about it. So the problem is that he'd just come out of the corner where he was almost on full throttle already by the point of impact, or even before the point of impact. So by the time that he saw the car going around, he actually did try and make a move. You can see there to turn left as fast as possible, or as much as possible, but it just wasn't able to do so. You can see he's trying to keep it straight. He sees that car wrecking, and he tries to dive down low, but the car starts getting loose around on him, and just can't do anything about it. And that is the leader taken out of the first place spot. And Jaden Hopp gonna be very unhappy to see that one. But absolutely nothing either driver could really do about that. I'm sure, if anything else, from my own experience, I can say that Tony Hilbrands will be feeling absolutely besotted and just, beside himself, I should say, with how that one unfolded. Especially, you know, no one wants to take out another driver, let alone yourself. But when it's also the leader of the race, I mean, that is a harsh blow to be dealt.
Yeah, I mean, you know, and I don't think that Tony or Jaden are going to be on ill terms with one another, but I'm more than certain that Tony's going to be saying his apologies over the voice chat, over the race chat, that all the drivers are currently listening to right now. I'm sure Tony is just spilling out his guts right now, just saying, just trying to make sure that things are well between them. You know, I don't think Jaden's going to be holding a grudge or anything like that. It is a racing incident. These things do happen. That is the whole point of a racing incident. But it's like you said, Gareth. It's gonna hurt a little bit. Probably more so for Tony than it will for Jaden. But it's still a tough break for both drivers. But what will be a good break for these drivers is this yellow flag. This is really going to shake things up here. It's going to allow these drivers to get rack stacked and ready to go again. Another opportunity for these guys to get into a little bit of a battle formation, if you will. Unfortunate to see that a good chunk of our field, or, well, I don't want to say a good chunk, but a fair bit of our drivers have taken it behind the wall here already. But we've still got plenty of drivers out here and still plenty of racing left to be seen here, excuse me, as we come across the line, and it is 150 laps until we see the end here of the Heartland 400 here at Iowa Speedway, the second crown jewel race of the 2023 Velocity Racing League Cup Series. Gareth, it's been a great night of racing, and honestly, I'm pretty excited for this restart here. I think this is going to really spice things up here, especially now that we've got Nicholas Corcel, Benjamin Lacey up here in the front row, Jaden Hopp, Sean Williams taking up that second row here, and everyone's going to have fresh tires to work with and going to have a fresh opportunity to really fight for some positions here.
Well, interestingly enough, I've had this happen before, and I'm not sure exactly how this works out, but we've got Sean Williams showing up in 4th position, but he is actually at the back of that pack right now. So I'm not sure how that one's sort of come about, but we will continue, as he may have been the lucky dog, and that might be why, actually, now that I think about it, that he has come back around to being on the lead lap. But Nicholas Corcel is going to take the lead quite substantially right now from Benjamin Lacey. Jaden Hopp, very lucky not to get any more damage from that incident, able to stay there in the 3rd position. So still on the lead lap for Jaden Hopp, nothing hurting all too much, and he knows exactly how to get back to the front, so he'll be doing that pretty soon in short order. Sean Williams again starting at the back of this pack for the front group, so he's going to be a little bit further behind in terms of position-wise, but still fighting on track for a slice of real estate, as Scott Shire is on the inside of him right now, and Scott Shire fighting with Matthew Fitz and Logan Jones. However, both those drivers are actually ahead of him on track. Scott Shire showing as ahead of them. So he actually has a lap to the good on those drivers around him, as it looks like Sean Williams is going to be able to keep that spot really ahead of him quite well, as Jaden Hopp is making inroads, catching up to Benjamin Lacey. And you know, just before I hand the mic back over to you, Mason, it was caution time, and I forgot to say it, so I'm going to say it right now. You know, Mason, when I was younger, I didn't like facial hair, but as I grew up, it grew on me. And that is my dad joke for that, Cautions.
Oh, you know, I think that was probably like peak dad joke right there. That was some that was a good one. Oh, Sean Williams here. As we're watching a little bit of lap traffic going on here, we've got some mixed bag drivers here, all fighting for whether it be trying to unlap themselves or keep themselves on the lap that they're currently on. Logan Jones here currently alongside with Sean Williams, who is currently going to be 2 laps ahead of that number 3 driver. So, I mean, again, like I mentioned, we have drivers trying to keep themselves in the mix of things, as these drivers are going to be door-to-door banging with one another. That's going to slow them down. That's really going to kind of shake things up here a little bit. And for those drivers that are on the lead lap, it's going to be a challenge for them to try and manage their way around all of this traffic that is now developed as we work our way about 4 or 5 laps into this restart here, closing in on lap 260 of 400. Things are now at the point in the race where, you know, you've got all of this traffic around you, but you also have to bear in mind that not all of these drivers are going to be ones that you need to fight with. You know, getting door to door with, with someone ahead of you that's 2 or 3, 4 laps down isn't necessarily always going to work out in your favor, especially at this point in the race. I mean, I think, for where we're at in the race and for where these drivers have kind of, for what they've seen throughout this race, I would almost say, it'd be best to kind of just wait it out until you get separated out again, to kind of really start to put the hammer down. But that also might not be the best solution here either. You could also really hurt yourself by doing that and lose a lot of time that you could have spent, trying to work your way through the lap traffic and trying to get ahead of them, instead of just letting them, do their thing and keep their race going. Obviously, a moral dilemma for some drivers, maybe, probably not. But nonetheless, just kind of speculating up here in the booth as we are watching Nicholas Corcel and Benjamin Lacey start to develop a little bit of a battle up here in the front for the lead. Lap 260 of 400. Corcel, our race leader, and going to be leading the race for, I think this is his first time being up here at the very front of the pack. And Benjamin Lacey, the hard charger of the race, up 9 spots from where he was in 10th position. So Benjamin Lacey definitely looking to get himself some of that clean air ahead of him and also lead some laps here. But also, I mean, again, we've got to mention it is the crown jewel here, the second one of the 2023 Cup Series. And it's, you know, $100 on the line for these two drivers particularly up here, as well as Jaden Hopp, who's kind of lingering back here in that third place spot. Any one of these three drivers, as well as, I think it was Sean Williams.
As well as Sean Williams. Yeah, all 4 drivers on the lead lap. Every single one of them are our crown jewel drivers. So how's that for a stat for you, Mason? I mean, that just goes to show that these drivers are definitely deserving of that extra cash as a prize money. And it looks like there was a huge run from Benjamin Lacey just there for a second as Nicholas Corsell holds off Benjamin Lacey just behind. You know, these drivers, another thing to remember, these drivers have not been out front. They haven't seen what it's like to be out there. And Jaden Hopp knows all too well exactly what it's like. So I almost wonder if these drivers, they have to be very careful. As much as they're excited to be out front, and who could blame them, they have to be very careful. There's still a very long way to go in this race. They have to be careful not to burn up their tires, as it looks like Jaden Hopp has just let them go a little bit as he's conserving his tires, because he knows on the long run that's what he's going to need to be able to make a pass later on. And he's slowly creeping his way back up, but not fast enough to tell me that he's using his tires too much. And with this battle going on with Lacey and Corsell, it almost makes me wonder if they're going to run out of steam, for lack of a better term. I know we're not steam-powered engines anymore, but, you know, it still kind of works, I guess. I don't know. I don't know where I was going with that one. I should just stop talking, probably. Mason, you take over.
Imagine a steam-powered NASCAR. I mean, just imagine that for a second.
That would be very hard on spectators.
Going back to the
Where'd
old
the cars
days.
go?
Oh man, you know, I don't think that would be very entertaining in the grand scheme of things, but that would just be something to behold in of itself. But either way, despite the fantasies of racing probably the max speed of 20 mile an hour with a steam-powered engine, we're not going to speculate on that any further. Jaden Hopp here starting to close in on second place driver Benjamin Lacey, just about a quarter of a second separating these two as we enter lap 268 of 400, coming out onto the back straight away. Jaden Hopp currently showing he's about equal pace to that of both Benjamin Lacey and Nicholas Corsell. We're going to see here if Jaden Hopp is going to have the better line work here, as I was a little bit off on my assumption earlier in the broadcast. I don't know if any of you caught it, but I made a prediction that we would be under the lights by lap 250. I seem to have been off by quite a bit here. It probably won't be until, honestly, we probably won't see the lights come on until we're about lap 350 now at this point, now that I'm looking at things a little bit more clearly. But also another good point to note here is that we're starting to see less and less sunlight beaming its way down onto the racetrack here. So more and more of this track is going to start to cool down a little bit more, and more grip is going to be available for these drivers. And frankly, Gareth, I mean, correct me if I'm wrong, but it kind of looks like we're starting to see that here for these drivers. I'm seeing less and less of these drivers fight that rear end. That could also just be the fact that we just came into pit road a few laps, about 20-30 laps ago. But again, from what I'm seeing, it looks like things are improving.
Yeah, it seems that way. I mean, we don't know for sure, as it does look like every single driver pretty much came down on pit road and took brand new tires to be able to make their way around during under caution. So they've only been going for less than 30 laps here at this point, so not quite to the point where their tires are getting at their loosest. So we'll see that later on. But what is interesting is, like you said, with the sun going down, there's not a whole lot of track out there that has sunshine on it. Only a couple spots here at the end of the front stretch and at the end of the back stretch really have any sort of sunlight on them at the moment, which is going to play an interesting role, especially because that is where the braking zones are to be able to make these corners. And another thing of note as well, Nicholas Corsell has been typically running the high line. And what has happened to Tony Hillbrands as he takes a bit of a rallycross course-like approach and diving straight through the grass.
Let's take a look at the instant replay here for the number 92 Phenom Paint Shop Machine, and out of turn 4, and I eat my words, as it does not appear that some drivers are getting more of that grip that I was alluding to. Right at the very middle of the track there, or right as he was coming across the checkered line, it seems like losing that rear end a little bit there, and frankly, I might have to go back and look at that one more time to see exactly what happened there, but I'd have to imagine that, you know, right at that particular right about here, something got loose. So either that he was already loose coming out of 4 and just still trying to keep it together. I'm not 100% certain. I've only raced a few times here at Iowa, but I would have to imagine that it was already feeling a little unstable coming out of 4. But luckily for Tony, he was able to keep it away from the wall and get it right back on track and avoid another yellow flag coming out here on lap 276. But as we see more of the front of the field start to close in on one another, particularly Corcel, Lacey, and Hop, starting to bring the action to one another. Lacey trying to close into that bumper of the 45 Sour Patch Kids machine. Jaden Hop as well, also looking to try and close the distance here, but also maybe even just kind of lingering back there, not waiting for the perfect opportunity to make a pass here.
Yeah, it's one of those things. Certainly when you're in that third place position, you've still got some laps to dial down. Typically you find a lot of these drivers just kind of chill there at the back. They're just waiting for if any kind of contact happens. If one of these drivers pushes too hard, makes a mistake, then you can bet that Jaden Hop will be right there to take advantage. And even though this battle is going on right now, I have to point out that in the chat there has been an outbreak of dad joke fever, and it looks like there's been a couple. If I almost feel like I have to say these out loud just to get if anyone is missing the chat room right now. So Lindsay says, if prisoners could take their own mug shots, what would they be called? And the answer to that, Mason, you want to have a go?
Selfies.
Because they're selfies.
I was wondering if you were going to catch that, Gareth. I saw all the dad jokes being mentioned here in chat, and just loving just loving to see the interaction between our fans. But lap 281.
Yeah, sorry, I was just going to say, I like Carl coming out with the with one as well. We don't hear enough from Carl. Carl Fitz coming out saying, what kind of racehorses come out at night? Nightmares. So
love it.
That's a great one as well, especially because like that makes me think of a whole bunch of references to like movies and stuff that I've seen in the past. You know, like God, I probably shouldn't be referencing movies now that I think about it while we're watching racing, that especially if they have nothing to do. But with racing itself, what's that one? The Rise of the Guardians. That immediately sprung to mind for some reason, as it looks like Corcel and Lacey are going side by side, but no, Benjamin Lacey is not quite able to make it work as Jaden Hop is right on the back bumper now. These three cars, once again, all Crown Jewel drivers and all right next to each other.
Jaden Hop is on a mission here to catch himself back up to the front of the pack after an incident with Tony Hillbrands. He had to find himself down a couple positions, but luckily only just a couple. I think any more positions than that, and Jaden Hop really would have been in trouble had he lost really any more than what he's currently at. He's still fighting from that third place spot where he restarted from, but he is definitely he's not in a bad spot here. He's still right on the tail of Benjamin Lacey and Nicholas Corcel, but it's also a good time to mention the pace of Corcel and Lacey here. I mean, these two are really stepping up their game here. They have really shown that they have also got what it takes here to come away with a potential win here at Iowa, as I mean, all race long, we've seen kind of different strategies being played out. We saw James Miller kind of playing a short run strategy for a little while. And Nathan Gutierrez, we saw also kind of running a similar strategy there for some time. And Nathan, unfortunately, he has also fallen out of the race here, lap 254. He came down into pit road and took it behind the wall. So, unfortunately, seeing quite a few of our drivers take it behind the pit wall here tonight, and unfortunately to say, you know, it's been a tough race for some drivers here. Some of them opted to just, you know, end the pain early, so to speak, and just finish out the race from the pits. But, you know, this race is definitely not an easy one, and I commend those drivers that are still here in the race and those that actually even that attempted today's race. I know that it is definitely
Sorry, just Carl Fitz's dad joke completely threw me off. I was trying to think of all the possible scenarios, and that was not one of the ones that I was thinking of. So I'm so sorry, Mason.
It spooked me a little bit. I thought I said something.
Carl Fitz coming out saying, "Why did the electric car finish the race early?" It's because it had a short circuit. I'm so sorry, Mason. That just completely threw me. That just...
Well, it caught me off guard, so it made me laugh. That was worth it. Either way, I'm satisfied. But lap 289 of 400 here, folks. It's been a little over 2 hours since we've started this broadcast, and 2 hours for these drivers since they've been behind the wheel since the green flag has dropped. And I don't know about you folks, but I can definitely feel the fatigue that these drivers are currently feeling behind that wheel. I mean, Gareth, I know that you do a little bit more, you do more racing than I certainly do. I mean, what at this point in the race, I mean, how do you think your arms would be feeling right now?
As I still recover from my laughter, they would be hurt. They'd be hurting for sure. Your arms at this point, you know, they wouldn't be to the point where they're numb, but they'd definitely be to the point. It depends on. Excuse me, as I muddle over words. It depends on your seating position more than anything else. And you know, one thing that I notice on these longer races, and I'm sure I can say this on broadcast, but my ass hurts. You know, when no, like seriously, when you're driving for, you know, this long, more than anything, like your arms can be okay for the most part, even though if a bit sore, as well as your legs might get a bit sore. But really, I noticed the tailbone is really where I feel it the most. And I mean, I don't have the comfiest of chairs, it must be said, but certainly, you know, there's a reason why in a lot of longer races they have driver swaps, and I think that these drivers are definitely going to be feeling it in the rear, for for lack of a better way to say it. But these three drivers, I mean, they'd be so focused on racing right now that they wouldn't even worry about it.
Don in the chat, drivers getting fatigued, announcers getting loopy. Yeah, that about sums it up here for the experience up here in the booth, as we do our best to keep everyone entertained here. And keep a smile on everyone's face. That's probably what we do best up here. But Nicholas Coruscant definitely still feeling the pressure here from Benjamin Lacey, Jaden Hopp as well. But even despite all of that, Coruscant doing an incredible job of maintaining the pace here. I mean, he is really setting things up here for his race. But what also needs to be mentioned is that we are just about, I would say, 15-20 laps before we see these drivers have to come down into the pit road again. And I would have to imagine here, Gareth, that once they come down here this next time, that might be the last time that they come down into pit road. I could be mistaken in that statement, but I want to say it would be very close. I mean, if they want to make it if they want to make it one more stop, I would say they probably have to make this set of tires last and this fuel last until about lap 215, somewhere in that neighborhood, before they need to come down into pit road. Otherwise, they might be setting themselves up for a two-stop finish here, even including all of the other stops that we've made here already tonight.
Well, it's a good point you raised, because I was just thinking as well, you know, our fuel window is 70 to 75 laps. Now, that's from what we've seen historically. A lot of these drivers are coming in more around the 70 mark than the 75 mark. And if we're looking, their last pit stop, all of these drivers, since the caution was happening, they all came down at lap 246. We're just about to hit lap 300, so that is right around the 60-ish mark, just under 60 laps. So I believe we may actually see not just this next section or series of pit stops happening coming up now. We may see it. We may see one more with about 30 or 40 laps to go in this one. That's what I'm expecting to see before the end of this race. Of course, a caution can come in and throw that to the wind. I guess we'll have to wait and see, as Benjamin Lacey makes a nice move, trying to get around and do something different on the high side of Corcel, now ducking low, seeing if he can make any kind of move to really throw off the Sour Patch number 45 machine. And keep in mind, folks, you know, Jaden Hopp may be just back there and looking like he's just keeping in tow with these two drivers in front. If we look at if we look at the timing sheet right now, they're actually building that gap on Sean Williams that they had. It used to be, obviously, since the start of the yellow flag, it was about a second. They've built it up to almost a 5-second gap at this point. It's certainly been, you know, these drivers aren't taking it easy, these three. They are pushing certainly hard, and I can't stress enough just how much pressure is not only in their bodies but also in their minds right now, as they continue to battle 3 cars deep for the first place spot.
Well, and what's got to be a big sigh of relief for these drivers at this point is the fact that they've just recently come across the line to crack their way into the final 100 laps of this race. I mean, to these drivers, that's the home stretch here at this point. I mean, you can see the light at the end of the tunnel, and probably once these drivers come down into pit road, assuming that this is going to be one final pit stop before the end of the race, that will probably reaffirm that assumption that it's going to be the final stretch here and that things are winding down to the very end here. But what's also got to be kind of noted here is the fact that these 3 drivers, if they all continue to stay within this kind of tight-knit battle, tight-knit pack that they've developed here, if they all come down into pit road together, that's only going to make this fight even more interesting. But what's going to really shake things up here is if really, I think, Gareth, and you feel free to correct me here or speculate further on this, but I think whoever comes down into pit road first is going to be the one that wins.
Ooh, that's a tough call, Mason. That's a
I you know what, I might be wrong, but I've done enough broadcasting I think whoever out of these 3 drivers, whoever comes down first, they're going to be the one that takes home the win.
Well, I'm actually surprised no one's tried something else right now. Now that you mention that, because these 3 drivers, right? If I was actually, you know what? If I was Sean Williams right now, I'd be thinking I should pit now, because I believe that, now I could be wrong here, but I believe these drivers will have to pit not just this time by, but also the next time before we get to the end of the race. And with Sean Williams being as far behind as he is, if you pit early, you gain time on the other drivers ahead because they pit later than you and you're on fresher tires. And being that if we may have to stop one extra time, you may as well really shorten one of these pit stops, namely this one that's about to happen, because the next one will only be so long regardless. So if I was Sean Williams, especially sitting way back about 6 seconds behind these guys, that's what I'd be thinking in my head. But I mean, it's easier said than done, especially now that we can have a look at what's going on. And speaking of, I should have alerted to this earlier, as Corcel and Lacey are going side by side. We've seen this. I wonder how this one's going to play out, though, because Lacey has been stronger on that low side line.
Ooh.
But Corcel is stronger on the high side line as Corcel touches the wall, gets absolutely vacuumed into it, cannot get out of the suction that the wall creates, manages to get off it eventually, but has lost both spots in the top 2 positions to Benjamin Lacey and Jaden Hopp. And that's really going to spice things up a little bit more. And as you said, you know, with who decides to come down first, I don't know if it guarantees a win, but in my opinion, definitely makes one seem a bit more of a ray of sunshine. I don't know where I was going with that one, but yeah, it seems like that is the way to go, as Lindsay coming out saying, what did the grape say when it got stepped on? It didn't say much, it just let out a little whine, which is so fitting considering I live on a winery. But
Wait, do you really?
well, I mean, it's in the stages of being built one, but yeah.
That's
so
cool. That's cool. I did not know that. Sorry. Sidetracked.
No, it's all good. Carl Fitz, why did the owner name his horse Bad News? Because bad news travels fast.
I like that one. That was a good one, Carl.
I really like that one. You know, Carl, that's one of those ones that I never would have thought of, and I'm so glad that you've brought it up, because that's one that I think I'll definitely use in the future. I'm not going to lie about that. As Logan Jones has come to pit already. So Logan Jones down pit road early. Great switch of the camera there. Good job, Mason. As Mason, as always, providing our cameras for us and doing a fantastic job. As Benjamin Lacey, we go back to the battle here with Jaden Hopp and Nicholas Corcel. A little bit more of a gap forming between these three. And, you know, I'm surprised they're able to stretch out this fuel run as long as they are. I expected them to come down a little bit earlier than they have done at the moment. But they are proving me wrong. So I'm actually starting to wonder, like you said, maybe they will only take one more stop. I was certain they'd take 2, but it doesn't look that way.
It really seems like I mean, at this point, if they were to come down pit road just now, it would have been an 85 lap stop or an 85 lap stint for them. And I don't know how possible that would be for these drivers. I mean, I don't doubt that they could do it. I'm more so worried that they wouldn't be able to do it with how they're currently driving. That's kind of my biggest concern, as Jaden Hopp is starting to solidify that concern a little bit more, that those tires are definitely worn as they continue to turn laps here. And I mean, Gareth, like I mentioned, of these 3 drivers, the first one that's going to come down into the pits is going to have the advantage, I would have to say. Now, if they all come down into the pits at the same time, that's really going to shake things up here. That's really going to bring things down to the wire between these drivers. It's all going to come down to pit execution at that point. Is anyone going to come into the pits too fast? Are they going to be served a speeding penalty? Are they going to miss their box? Are they going to have to hit that reverse and back up and get into the correct position? So many things could go wrong during your pit stop that are going to have huge implications here at this point in the race. Only 80 laps left to go now. As we come across the line, it's lap 319 of 400. Benjamin Lacey, your race leader, and Jaden Hopp just about a quarter of a second behind that number 7 machine. Nicholas Corcel, who was previously the race leader just a few laps ago, finding himself into the wall. I believe it was out of turn 4, and finding himself back here into that 3rd place position. But here it is, Jaden Hopp, Nicholas Corcel, 1 and 2. They come down into pit road, leaving Benjamin Lacey all out on his lonesome. And now it's going to come down to Jaden Hopp and Nicholas Corcel as they work their way down into the pit box and get their final set of tires as well as fuel to finish out today's race.
Yeah, Benjamin Lacey is going to have to come down pit road absolutely next time by, because otherwise he's going to be strung out to dry. And yes, he does always get a little bit loose, keeps it together. What a fantastic drive from Benjamin Lacey, managing to keep that one underneath him. Sean Williams, I think, has decided he's going to go for broke and go for absolute maximum fuel mileage. Is the only decision he's decided that he has as an option to take this one home. Jaden Hopp and Nicholas Corsell both coming out of pit road. It looks like Jaden's pit stop was about half a second, maybe a little bit more, about 7/10 faster than what Nicholas Corsell's stop was. So Jaden Hopp coming out quite a bit quicker. So that is really going to hurt Nicholas Corsell. His pit crew guys are letting him down on that one. And I have to mention as well, this is so topical. Carl Fitz with saying one last joke from him, as the jokes don't stop here apparently, according to in our spectator area, has been absolutely hilarious so far tonight. How many NASCAR drivers does it take to destroy a track jet dryer? And the answer is one, as a reference to one Pablo Montoya hitting a track dryer a few years ago now. Wow, that makes me feel a little bit old. I can't remember exactly what year it was, but I remember watching it. So, but yeah, that I thought that's probably the most topical, like, dad joke I think I could have ever seen anyone make as we watch these cars go around the track. But as you can see there, Benjamin Lacey has come out of pit road behind Jaden Hopp and just in front of Nicholas Corsell. These three drivers have spread out just a little bit, as what we typically see happens with green flag stops. Sean Williams came down pit road, already got that one's done and sorted out of the way. Scott Shire as well. So these drivers, Sean Williams has a couple more laps on Jaden Hopp and Nicholas Corsell. Benjamin Lacey has only one extra lap. Will these drivers be able to make it to the end? Highly doubtful, but I've been proven wrong before, Mason.
Yeah, it's really kind of up in the air right now whether or not these drivers are going to be able to make it to the end on this final tank of fuel as well as tires. I'm almost confident in saying that they will be able to, but I have to imagine that if once they do come across that line, it's going to be on fumes. I mean, these drivers are going to be pushing it to the very, very limits of what these cars are able to do here. As we're watching now, Jaden Hopp, Benjamin Lacey continuing to continue this fight. Okay, yeah, that makes sense. Benjamin Lacey right on the tail here of Jaden Hopp, the number 81 machine. Currently, I mean, they're pretty much neck and neck in pace right now, but Benjamin Lacey seems to be utilizing slightly different lines here that are bringing him a little bit closer to the tail of that number 81 machine. I mean, it's very subtle and very slight here for Benjamin Lacey, but it looks like if you look closely, you can tell that Jaden Hopp just hugging the bottom of the track here through these turns just a little bit lower than that of Benjamin Lacey. You can see Benjamin just staying a little bit higher on the entry, but kind of evening out once he gets midway through the turn. It's, again, very subtle variations. I don't think it's playing huge implications in their race here, but just kind of something I've noticed up here in the booth and may be contributing to Benjamin Lacey's ability to track down Jaden Hopp. And also getting into that draft here a little bit, getting into that air just behind the number 81 machine, it's going to allow him to close that distance here on the back straightaway, especially even though it isn't exactly a super long straight, it is enough to kind of catch back up to the driver ahead of you. So Benjamin Lacey is definitely on a mission here. I think Lacey here is also going to be looking for his very first win of the season if he can pull it off. And yes, it will be not only his first win of the season if he can pull it off and get around Jaden Hopp here, but also his very first pole position of the year if he can stay here in the top three along with Jaden Hopp and Nicholas Corsell. So a lot of great things can happen here for Benjamin Lacey if he can keep up this momentum. Jaden Hopp going to be looking to secure another win if he can stay consistent, which we've all seen it in the past. Jaden is very, very good at staying consistent here, especially when it is down to the wire like this. Less than 70 laps left to go before we see that checkered flag. This is where it all comes down to the wire here. This is where everything matters. Every mistake is going to cost you, and it's going to be even harder to recover from those mistakes. So with this being potentially the final pit stop for these drivers, it's going to be curious. It's going to be interesting to see how tire wear is going to affect these drivers, especially towards the later half, once we get probably close to 20 laps left in the race. How difficult are these cars going to be to keep in a straight line here remains to be seen. But lap 333 here at Iowa Speedway for the Heartland 400 for the second crown jewel race of the 2023 Velocity Racing League Cup Series. Jaden Hopp is currently your race leader. Benjamin Lacey sits in second. Nicholas Corcel in third. Sean Williams in fourth. And Scott Shire in fifth to round out your top five.
Yeah, it looked like Nicholas Corcel actually had a little bit of a bobble there. That looked very, very interesting indeed. He's maybe getting a little bit loose out of the corner. I think he's trying very hard to catch up to these drivers just in front of him, as he can see the lead right there. A little bit smoother on the exit this time by, so definitely getting that dial back in. Dawn Hillbrands came in the chat letting us know exactly when that, as a reference to the one Pablo Montoya jet dryer crash, letting us know it happened in 2012 in the Daytona 500 that year, and it was after midnight when that took place. And 2012 was actually the first year that I was able to watch NASCAR. It was the year when I found it. As I said, my family didn't know that NASCAR was really a thing. I mean, they knew it was a thing, but they didn't really care. And not many, well, really no one really did. But yeah, it was the first race that I saw was midway sometime during 2012, and yeah, basically been watching almost every race ever since, up until a few years ago when the broadcast stopped taking place in Australia for reasons of, I guess, broadcasting network or whatever, or political crap that I shouldn't get into. But yeah, so but yeah, definitely started my love for NASCAR back in 2012, and it's been only growing from there, as Jaden Hopp and Benjamin Lacey have still got a little bit of a gap between the two of them. And I think Jaden Hopp was actually listening when you said earlier about Benjamin Lacey having a little bit of a higher entry point than Jaden Hopp, as ever since you've basically said that, about a lap or two afterwards, it seemed like Jaden Hopp started using that to his advantage, not quite getting as low in the corner, and it seems to have paid off for him, as he has actually gained a little bit of time on Benjamin Lacey ever since changing up that little bit of a driving line, just allowing him to get more power down more quickly on the exit of these corners.
Yeah, and I mean, you know, you kind of being observant of that as a driver is not always an easy thing to pick up. You know, for a lot of, you know, new drivers in the sim, or even veterans that are in the service, you know, having that track awareness is, you know, it's always a great thing to have, and the better you are at it, the better you're going to be as a driver. But not everyone is going to have that same track awareness, and especially to the level where you're noticing the driver behind you is starting to gain on you, and you can kind of realize, like, my line is a little bit slower, let me try and change it a little bit and see if that helps. And Jaden Hopp, obviously, whether or not he was listening to us up here in the booth or not, he's definitely picked up on something. He has realized that he can go a little bit faster, get a little bit more pace out of the track, and it is definitely starting to show as he's improved that gap between himself and Benjamin Lacey to just over a half of a second at this point. So we'll have to wait and see if that will continue to trend in the upward directions for Jaden Hopp, or if Benjamin Lacey will be able to capitalize on this a little bit later into the stint once tire wear starts to play a little bit more of a factor in these drivers' race here. Again, we're going to have to wait and see once we get closer to that 20 laps left to go mark, where we're really going to see how this is going to play out for these drivers. I mean, tire wear is going to be critical here, and we've seen it already throughout this race. This is definitely a very easy track to get that rear end loose and get yourself in a very sticky situation. So Benjamin Lacey, you know, while he's kind of backed off here a little bit as far as, you know, distance is concerned, but I think Benjamin might also be playing a little bit of a mind game here with Jaden and just kind of letting him burn tires off a little bit, trying to, you know, get him to maybe not be more aggressive, but just, again, just try and burn that rubber off a little bit more. Just try and get him. Oh, man, Benjamin Lacey there. You could see it just barely, but that car starting to slide just a little bit. Already starting to see tire wear come into play here, even though it's only 25 laps into the stint. Again, it's going to be an interesting finish to tonight's race once we get closer to the end of things, but it is still about 55 laps left to go here at Iowa, and there's still a lot that could happen in those final 55 laps.
Oh, absolutely. Make no mistake. I mean, these three drivers are still very, very close together. Even Nicholas Corsell is only about a second behind Jaden Hoppers. We've got another issue for Tony Hillbrands. This day just keeps getting worse for the 92 driver.
It does not seem to end here for Tony. As we're looking at the replay, same spot on the track as what we saw from him before. And a very lucky save here for Tony. I mean, right as he was about to get into the side, right as he was about to get the side of his car into the wall there, he was able to get grip on the asphalt and get that car to slow down. But yeah, Tony is having a rough day here at Iowa. It has been a hard-fought day for the 92 machine as he comes down into pit road. And I can't imagine, you know, the emotions that Tony's feeling right now. I mean, it's just been an up and down race for Tony, and it's, you know, frankly, I admire him even still being in the race and still wanting to turn laps, because frankly, if I was him, you know, I would be feeling defeated at this point. So, I mean, huge props to Tony to sticking with it and just, you know, keeping with it, even though it seems like all hope is lost, I guess is the best way to describe it, unfortunately.
Well, we'll have to see if he continues to try and stay out. Another battle that has been on track. Absolutely perfect timing with the camera. Beautiful stuff, as I was just about to mention it. Matthew Fitz has been closing up to Logan Jones for the 6th place spot, and we have not talked about this at all as we've been so focused on the leaders. But Matthew Fitz has been closing that gap ever so slightly, about 1 or 2 tenths every now and then, and it looks like he's going to be right on the back bumper. The 69 machine is getting closer and closer to the 3 just in front, and this is really a battle that, as I said, we haven't really focused too much on, and Tony Hillbrands is in pit road for an extended stay, so he may choose to retire. Unfortunately, earlier on as well, we did have a little while ago now, Michael Ashmore decided to call it quits as well. So at the end of today so far, we've only got 7 drivers left on track still driving around, unless Tony decides to make it 8 if he comes back out. But for the moment, it doesn't look that way, as Matthew Fitz and Logan Jones fighting to not be that final car that we have running around.
Yeah, and Tony Hillbrands, he is showing that his fight is not over yet. He's making his way back out onto the racetrack, so he's not done yet. He's still out there for blood in some regards. But Matthew Fitz bringing the action here to Logan Jones right on the tail of the number 3 machine. Matthew Fitz goes down to the inside through turns 1 and 2. Looking for some action on the back straightaway. They go door to door. Logan Jones going to be on the inside. Gets a little bit of contact to the outside wall. That's going to slow Jones down to allow Matthew Fitz a spot into 6th place. And now Logan Jones going to have to bring the action back to Fitz as they come across the checkered line and back into turns 1 and 2. Meanwhile, back in 2nd and 3rd place, Benjamin Lacey, Nicholas Corsell continue to fight here for this 2nd place position. If you'll recall, just a little bit ago, Benjamin Lacey, as I was mentioning, going to be fighting for his first podium position of the season. So Lacey has got a lot on the line for himself here today. Even if Corcel gets around him, he still gets that third place finish, and I think that will be a great day for Corcel and the number 7 team, regardless of where he ends up at once things are all said and done here. But Corcel is definitely putting up a good fight here, trying to go around the outside out of turn 2 onto the back straightaway, has very good pace. And Lacey a little early on the brakes going into 3 and 4. That's going to open up the door for Corcel. Moves up into second place as they come out of turn 4, bringing it across the checkered line. Corcel has the better exit speed. And up into second place Corcel goes, and he's going to continue to track down Jaden Hopp as best as he can. Right now, about a second and a half separating these two drivers, so Jaden Hopp has plenty of clean air ahead of him, but only about 44 laps left before the end of the race here. So Corcel has a lot of work to do if he wants to get to the tail of Jaden Hopp. And frankly, I don't know if that's going to be entirely possible at this point in the race, but we'll just have to wait and see. Anything is always possible in racing, and it is not over until it is over. So with that in mind, folks, stay tuned. Don't go anywhere, because we still got plenty of racing left, and hopefully you still got a little bit of snacks left, because I am more than certain that things are only going to get spicier here as we enter into our final 40 laps here of our 400 lap race for the Heartland 400.
Yeah, I love when you end the sentences like that, because it almost sounds like we're getting ready to go to ad break, but we don't actually have any ad breaks.
No, you know what? And I am proud to say, folks, if you've been watching this whole broadcast, we've almost been live for 3 hours now, and we have not had a single commercial break throughout this entire broadcast. So, folks, as much as we do our best up here to stay entertaining throughout the race, the one thing that we definitely try not to do is load up our broadcast with a bunch of advertising and make it basically unbearable to watch unless you pay for a certain subscription. So
NBC, what?
Precisely.
Is
So,
it NBC, and so I don't know what I don't even know what it is.
Yeah, NBC, Fox, whatever it is, it's all the same.
Right when you want to see the action, ad break. Awesome.
Dawn is like, Mason, make your own ad breaks. And to be fair, we used to just run our intro for a little bit if we wanted to take a sip of water. But
just that 1 minute, just 1 minute little break.
We get a 1 minute break every now and then, but we haven't done that for quite some time. And frankly, I think for the viewers, I think for us up here in the booth, it works out well, because we often don't need to take commercial breaks. It often just kind of works out for itself. But I do just like pointing that out, that we bring these races to you without interruption in their entirety. And granted, sometimes we miss some stuff. I will admit that. I'll be the first one to admit that. Sometimes we miss stuff, but we do our best to make sure that we go back and try and cover it.
Absolutely. Mason, I got a question for you, because Dawn's just brought it out. Dad joke break, or we'll do that. We'll do one of those. Mason, what is brown and sticky? Remember, we're on broadcast.
Maple syrup. I don't know.
I'd say that's more golden, but you're not too far. You're not too far away. No.
Okay.
All right. Well, the answer. You know what's brown and sticky? A stick.
Oh my god. I was gonna say molasses next, but that works better. Oh my god.
It's so bad. It's so. Bad.
It just goes right over your head, and gosh.
I don't doubt you at all for getting that one wrong, because I would have had, if I was on the receiving end of that joke, I would have had no idea as well.
Well,
But,
I will say what I was right about is the fact that we're racing under the lights here, just under 350 laps. So I was right about that. I can say I was right about one thing here tonight.
Yeah, well, I mean, you're more than right at just about one thing, Mason. Give yourself a little bit more credit. I mean,
well,
come on now, but, we've got at the moment, we're winding down some laps, and Here's the real question though. With the laps coming down as much as they are, we've got about 30, just over 30 to go. If you were in the position of, say, Benjamin Lacey, who's fallen off the pace a little bit here, and currently sitting in the 3rd place, you can see that if you really want, are you desperate to finish in the top 3 spots? Or would you go for broke knowing that you can only drop 1 or 2 spots to get yourself only dropping to about 4th or 5th? Would you try and do a quick pit stop on the basis that a caution may come out? And if the caution does come out, or if these cars can't make it all the way to the end on fuel, do you pit early, get some tires underneath you, drive back to being 1 lap down, take the wave around or the lucky dog if you're able to get it from Scott Shire, who is 1 lap down at the moment, and then get on the lead lap by the time that the yellow flag or by the time pit cycles file through if we need them? Do you think it's worth the risk taking that option, say in the case of Benjamin Lacey, say in the case of Sean Williams, to just try and do something different, to just go for broke, go for the win, and get the cash payout?
Well, see, that is a real gamble here. I mean, it's a very tricky situation to kind of be in, because you can almost certainly, we talked a little bit about this already, folks. I mean, both Jaden Hopp, Nicholas Coruscant, even Benjamin Lacey, as well as Sean Williams, who we haven't really mentioned at all really during all this, all of these drivers are theoretically going to be staying out on the same set of tires, same set of fuel, all the way until the end of the race. And, with that kind of being in mind here, Gareth, I mean, I think you might be right. You might be onto something, because the drivers that are going to, I assume, stay out all the way until the end, they're going to be fighting those tires rather significantly, and the chances of someone losing their car and getting into the wall or something along those lines, I would say, is fairly high the closer we get to the end of the race. So, and Logan Jones, the number 3 machine, he's going to take the option to come down here into pit road, and looking like he's kind of driving a little jackknife there a little bit. It almost looks like he's crooked. Am I just seeing things?
No, I definitely see what you're thinking, and it may not have anything to do with, in terms of major mechanical. It may just be a little bit of the wall pushing in the car on the right side. It could just be the fact that, these cars, as we know, are geared up for turning left as well as possible. So they're actually slightly off. I think there's actually a term for it with the chassis is called, it's like a crooked chassis or something like that. And it's actually developed specifically so that the car looks, on flat ground, the car looks like it's sort of leaning to one direction, to the left side, even though, just because it's built that way so that during the corners, they can actually, basically be planted during those banked angles. So that's the way it works. And Jaden Hopp is coming down. He's going to be the first one to decide, I can't make it, I'm going to come in. And that is a huge call for the first place position. And that really throws into question what the other drivers are going to do here, because now Nicholas Coruscant, Benjamin Lacey, unless some kind of caution comes out, if we stay green, the only way that those 2 drivers or Sean Williams will be able to take this win home, barring any sort of incident, is to stay out the entire rest of the way. And I'm not sure they have the fuel to do it.
The fuel, or even the tires for that matter. I mean, these cars are not going to be easy to drive. The closer we get to the checkered line, the longer that you stay out, the harder it is going to be to keep these cars out on track. So 25 laps left to go as Coruscant crosses the line. It brings us 24 laps. Jaden Hopp making his pit exit. He's back onto the racetrack. He's going to be down what looks to be, I think, 2 laps? 1 lap? No, it's only 1 lap.
Just one.
Okay.
Just one.
So with that in mind here, folks, Coruscant, Lacey, Williams, all 3 of these drivers, like Gareth just mentioned, if they want to retain their positions here, if they don't want to lose their spots, they need to stay out the next 23 laps to ensure that they keep their positions here. So, Gareth, I mean, like you were asking me just a moment ago about Benjamin Lacey, what I would do if I was in this situation. Would I come in early? You know, at this point, now that we're seeing Jaden Hopp coming down into pit road, I almost would feel inclined to want to do the same thing here. But now that a few laps have passed by, I think that feeling has kind of fleeted from these drivers. I feel like that window of opportunity has now left them, because now I feel like they've dedicated themselves to this run. You know, Corcel, I think, realizes that he has the opportunity to come away with a win, not only with a win, but his second win of the season, and also going to bring $100 extra in his pocket here if he can keep things steady here for the next 21 laps. So a lot is on the line here. This is a big gamble for all of these drivers who have opted to stay out. Nicholas Corcel, Benjamin Lacey, Sean Williams, all three of them are going to have to be on their A game here, and the closer that we get to that checkered flag, the more interesting that it's going to be for these drivers. Now, Jaden Hopp, meanwhile, if any three of these drivers, particularly Corcel, come down into pit road, this is going to open up the door for Jaden Hopp. And right now, according to timing and scoring, Hopp has got the pace to outpace everybody out here on the track right now. He is going to be the fast man on the track. Will it be enough here with 19 laps left to go to catch up to Corcel, or even to the top three for that matter? Remains to be seen. He's got about 14 seconds before he catches up to Sean Williams in that number 89 machine, currently in third. And also, just to point out here as well, he's down a lap. I'm not sure if he's still got to unlap himself.
Yeah, so he's just unlapped himself from Benjamin Lacey right now. So
Okay,
he's still got to unlap himself from Corcel and then make his way all the way around to catch back up. So under green, if everything stays the way it is, no one comes down pit road, no nothing, he will be resigned to finishing in that 4th place position. However, if these drivers up front, and that's really the big question, if they can't make it the whole way, Jaden is in the front row seat to make this thing his race. So it's going to be huge, and especially if a caution comes out, as Jaden is just about to unlap himself from Corcel. As you see, Jaden Hopp has just made his way through. If a caution comes out now, he will not have to come down pit road, and he will start up front. So really, at this point, Corcel and Benjamin Lacey, Sean Williams, they have to just very minor sips at the fuel gauge as much as possible. Keep that car, try to keep the wheels from not burning them up too much, making the car any looser. And Corcel's coming down pit road.
A late entry here for the number 45 driver with 15 laps left to go as Benjamin Lacey crosses the line here. Corcel, he feels it in the tires. It is not going to last until the end, and perhaps even fuel being a little bit of a concern here for Corcel. Lacey, however, is going to stay out on track, retaining his lead position, but also looks to be... Nope, never mind. It looked like he was going to come down to the bottom of the track there, but opts to stay out yet another lap. 14 left to go here. Will Lacey be the one to stay out all the way until the very bitter end and take home his very first victory, as well as $100 here for himself tonight for the Heartland 400 here at Iowa Speedway? It's Benjamin Lacey, your race leader, Sean Williams in second place, and Jaden Hopp in third. 13 laps left to go as Lacey crosses the line, and it's still yet to be seen whether or not Lacey is going to take that time to come down into pit road. I am inclined to believe that he's going to try and take it all the way till the end, but with Jaden Hopp showing that he is on a mission here to get himself back up to the front, and currently, according to timing and scoring, his pace shows that he might just be able to do that, but with 13 laps left to go, it is going to be close.
Yeah, excuse me. Yeah, I believe that Jaden Hopp may actually be able to pass Sean Williams if we go all the way to green and take that second place away. But I think that Benjamin Lacey has just enough of a cushion with only 12 laps to go that he'll be able to stay out in front. The real big question for me is Benjamin Lacey and Sean Williams both came down lap 320. Now that means that they have had to save enough fuel to go 80 laps. We had an estimated fuel window at the start of the show, 70 to 75 laps. Most drivers were coming down with only 72, maybe 70, less than that even, with laps of fuel on their tanks. So I'm just so curious, as it's been 70 laps as of right now, if Benjamin Lacey has saved enough for 10 full laps. And you can see that I think he actually shifted down there.
Yes, he did. Yeah,
Save some fuel.
So if he's actually turning the car off as he makes his way through the turns, folks. I don't know if you guys are seeing this here, but watch as he approaches into turn 1. Watch his odometer. You can see the RPMs go all the way down as he turns the car off and then back on as he hits the apex of the turn. This is classic fuel saving methods here from Benjamin Lacey being put down here, and I'm surprised, folks, that it is even working here. I mean, this car is working overtime right now. 9 laps left to go, 8 as he crosses the checkered line, and Benjamin Lacey is in desperate fuel saving mode. I mean, Gareth, I can't even begin to describe how difficult this must be. I mean, I know if you have a wheel that has enough buttons on it, you can make it work, but in this car, it is definitely got to be a taxing method at best.
Yeah, this is absolute dire straits right now, and he is losing time quite significantly to Jaden Hopp. Sean Williams, I think, is playing out a very, very similar strategy as well, as his last time by was actually slower than Benjamin Lacey's. So these drivers, these two in our top 2 spots right now, as Jaden Hopp is very rapidly closing into Sean Williams, these two drivers are absolutely desperately saving their fuel as much as they can. Scott Shire was the only other one that was on that same similar strategy, and he had to give up. He came down pit road, only a couple of laps to go. As you can see, a 3-wide battle. This could be very interesting. Matthew Fitz, Logan Jones, right next to Nicholas Corsell, and thankfully everything got sorted out in a good way. Nothing untoward happening there, as Matthew Fitz and Logan Jones still locked in a battle for that 5th place position, and they have been for quite a while now, as we've been so focused on the leaders. What's happening with them, as Jaden Hopp is closing right up to the back bumper of Williams and looks to make that pass, and does so as Sean Williams is desperately saving as much fuel as possible. The question is, Benjamin Lacey is traveling quite a lot slower than Jaden Hopp right now. It's almost a second a difference at this point. It's over half a second slower is Benjamin Lacey to Jaden Hopp, and I just wonder, will he be able to save just enough? It's so close with only 3 laps left to go.
And every single time that Benjamin Lacey turns that engine off, that's going to open up the door for Jaden Hopp to capitalize on bringing that gap down even further. Now, right now, it's at about 10.5 seconds with 3 laps left to go. Folks, when I said this was going to come down to the wire, I meant it. And it's right now, with Benjamin Lacey now only having to make his way around the track, what will be just about one more time left as he comes out of turn 2 and onto the back straightaway. It is the final chance to dance here for Benjamin Lacey, as now coming out of turn 4, it is going to be the last time that Lacey is going to have to take it around Iowa Speedway before bringing home the W for the number 7 machine, the very first victory for Benjamin Lacey. All he's got to do now is take his way through 3 and 4, and if all goes well, he will claim victory and also $100. The checkered flag is out, and out of turn 4 goes the number 7 of Benjamin Lacey. An incredible victory for Benjamin Lacey. An incredible strategy being played out, and Jaden Hopp going to come out of turn 4 and takes home 2nd place, as Sean Williams just behind in 3rd place. A phenomenal finish here for the number 7 driver. Benjamin Lacey making an 80 lap stint work in favor for himself here today, and also using a bit of fuel saving strategies in the mix of it as well. Lacey now going to approach his way to the checkered line and start his celebratory burnout as we now prepare ourselves for post-race interviews up here in the booth. Gareth, what a phenomenal race here tonight, and what a great strategy working out for Benjamin Lacey here as well.
Oh, I've got to imagine that he is absolutely running on fumes. I'm surprised he's even able to have any kind of celebration at all. And it looks like it was a great celebration at that. He was performing quite admirably. But I will say, you know, we had Sean Williams as well. Kudos to him as well. You know, in the third place spot, he also had 79 laps that he had to go through. Not as many as Lacey, with Lacey pitting 1 lap earlier, but still a heroic effort from both of those drivers.
Absolutely. I mean, it was an incredible race here for every single one of these drivers. Unfortunately, seeing more than a few falling out of the race here due to various reasons, and really just seeing a very interesting night here at Iowa for the second crown jewel race of the season. But we're going to go ahead and get ready for post-race interviews as we get our results up on our screens here. If that will pop up for us. There it is. And you can take a look at where your favorite driver finished here tonight as we go ahead and get ourselves ready for our first interview of the night, starting with Mr. Sean Williams, the number 89 driver, coming away with a third place finish here tonight. Mr. Sean, welcome back to the booth. Congratulations on your podium finish here tonight. A very interesting race that we had here tonight. A lot of ups, a lot of downs, a lot of drivers finding themselves down in pit road and unfortunately calling it an early end to their race here tonight. But Sean, you are finding yourself all over the track here. All over the field here tonight, not all over the track. But even through all of that, you managed to come away with a third place finish after what seemed to be a little bit of pit strategy kind of playing in favor here tonight. Both yourself and Benjamin Lacey opting to stay out about 80 laps here towards the end of the race. I mean, Sean, what kind of fuel were you working with as you came across the line?
Well, I didn't decide to start saving it till a little while into that run, which was a big mistake on my part. But finally I realized I didn't have the speed of those guys, so I had to try to do something different. So yeah, I just started saving. Didn't expect to get a third out of it. I don't know what exactly happened with Caressel, but yeah, I think Benjamin was doing the same thing too. Like we're both doing the same thing. So congrats to Benjamin there on the win. This was really tough.
And now that you said Caressel, I feel horrible that I've been saying Nicholas's name wrong this entire time for about a year and a half. But anyway,
I mean, you can call him Poopy Head too. I call him that sometimes. It's all good.
Well, Sean, to keep things on topic here and not roast Nicholas.
Caressel's a good friend of mine, so I can say stuff like that. It's fine.
Well, Sean, looking at tonight and coming away with a podium, this was kind of the endurance race for you guys here tonight after last week's race here at Iowa for the All-Star race. What's kind of your outlook, as we head next week into, as I pull it up here, we head,
Road America.
Road America, back to some awesome road track racing, the Dairyland 250.
Track.
Yes, sir. We head to the cheese track, and what's kind of your expectations for Road America?
I love road racing. I'm not the best at it, but I think it's great, especially with these cars too. I think it's a lot of fun. So I don't know. Hopefully a solid top 10, maybe top 5 if we can, sneak in there or something. But hopefully something good after tonight. My last few races haven't gone great, so it was good getting a podium here and just getting everything back together.
Absolutely. Well, it's always great having you up here in the booth, and it's always great to see you out there in the top 3, the top 5, and really putting on some great races here. But Sean, before we let you go and do your celebrating with your fellow drivers and teammates, anyone out there watching the broadcast, anyone in the pit crew or at home that you want to shout out and thank before you go tonight?
Oh yeah, well, Tony for putting on the league and Red. Admins don't get enough credit on iRacing, and we have a full race admin for every race, and he does an outstanding job. So shout out to Red, y'all for broadcasting, everyone who's watching the streaming there. I rewatch the races every week. I love them. I wish I was there to talk, but I'm on track because I want some Sour Patch Kids and all that stuff. But yeah, everyone who's watching that stream, my stream, any stream, whatever, any video, thanks for all the support. We all really appreciate it.
Absolutely. Well, we appreciate you joining us up here in the booth, Sean. It's always great to get to chat with you, and we look forward to seeing you next week at Road America, and hopefully get to talk to you again there.
Yeah, I hope so. Y'all have a good one.
You as well. Thank you, Sean.
Thank you.
Alrighty, folks, so that was Mr. Sean Williams, our third place driver, coming out of the booth here, taking home our third place finish. And up next, handing it off to my colleague, Jaden Hopp, taking it up in second place here today. Jaden coming away with a phenomenal podium finish after a very hard-fought battle there towards the end. And Jaden, I'm going to hand you off to Gareth.
Yeah, g'day, Jaden. How are you feeling after that one?
Feeling pretty good.
Yeah, well, so what we saw, really, I want to talk about a couple of things. Number one being how... I have to run through this real quick. What was going through your head when you saw Tony Hilbrand spinning in front of you and you thought, oh no, this could end my race?
I mean, I was so focused on the car ahead, I don't think I did. Like, I was too focused trying to get away.
Alright, well, I tell you what, it was phenomenal watching you drive through the track. Did you have any idea that Benjamin Lacey and Sean Williams would even be able to save that much fuel? Because it seemed like you decided pretty early on that you can't make it to the end.
I mean, I kind of thought there would be a slim possibility, but I didn't really think it would happen with how close he was keeping to me after we pitted. I didn't think he was going to be able to make it after that.
Yeah, well, I mean, it was pretty phenomenal to see you drive back through the field, though. You did a great job catching back up to and passing Sean Williams for this second place spot here tonight. I do have to mention, Lindsay wanted me to let you know that Blaney did win the Coke 600 here as well today. So now you know that as well. Hopefully that wasn't spoilers for you, but she wanted me to let you know, or someone else to let you know. So hopefully you enjoy that. But before we let you go, any shout outs, friends, sponsors you'd like to thank for supporting you here for the second place finish?
As always, I'd like to thank you guys for putting on an amazing broadcast, and Tony for putting on a good week, and everyone for showing up each week. And I'd like to thank my mom and grandma and uncle who are watching currently.
Alright, sounds good, Jaden. We have very much enjoyed having you up here in the booth week in and week out, it seems like. Good luck at Road America. We know you have a lot of pace on the road courses, so we expect to see you up here in the booth again next week.
Hopefully, thank you.
Alrighty, folks, and that was Jaden Hopp, our current championship leader, out of the booth here, taking home second place here tonight. And last, and certainly not going to be least here, the man of the hour, Mr. Benjamin Lacey, coming home with his very first win of the 2023 season. Benjamin, you must be feeling on top of the world right now. I mean, you pulled off an incredible strategy right at the end of the race. Fuel saving like a madman. We were riding on board with you there for a little bit, turning the car off, going through the turns, trying to conserve as much fuel as you can. Benjamin, how confident were you that this strategy was going to work for you tonight?
About 10 to 15%. I was not sure at all. It kept going back and forth. It was like I'd be good, and then it would be like a couple laps short, and then be good. It wasn't until actually when Coruscant came in. That's actually about the time I had about 2 extra laps of fuel saved at that point, but I still couldn't really push it until, I don't know, what was about maybe 3 or 4 to go. Then that's when I felt confident I could actually go. At that point, it was just a matter of if Jaden had enough time to come back around and snag it, but was able to hold on.
Well, Benjamin, you did a phenomenal job, and like I mentioned, we were watching on board with you there for a while, fuel saving as best as you could, and we were kind of theorizing up here in the booth whether or not, Jaden Hopp was going to be able to track you down. And frankly, if there was a few more laps in the race, I think that might have been a potential here. But for yourself, I mean, I think you kind of played it out perfectly. I don't think it would have worked out any better had you done anything differently. I think you executed this plan to a T. I mean, maybe you weren't exactly intending for it to work out this way, but I think you were in the right place at the right time, and things just kind of fell in your lap, and you managed to pull it off and do a phenomenal job to bring it home for the win here tonight. Now, kind of carrying this momentum forward, looking, next week at the road courses. I know that some drivers here, I'm not sure how confident you are going into the road courses. I know it's a little challenging at times, but what's kind of your expectations there, or what's kind of your outlook here into whether it's Road America or 2 weeks from now where we head to Gateway for the Gateway 200? What's kind of your outlook here for the next couple races?
Oh man, road courses they're fun, they're challenging. Is it Road America next week?
Yes, sir.
Yeah, so I'm pretty familiar with that track. I know that one well. It's just a matter of getting used to the car on the track, and then just kind of making sure managing throttle inputs and brake inputs properly, and kind of running from there and just kind of seeing what time we're able to put up. I haven't done a road race here with VRL, so this will be my first one with everybody, and I'm not sure how it's going to play out. So we'll see if there's any road course ringers in here or not.
Well, Benjamin, I would say I'm certainly excited to see you next week, to see what kind of pace you have going into Road America next week, as well as in future races. But before we let you go and do your celebrating here and crack open that champagne bottle on Victory Lane, is anyone out there watching the broadcast at home or in the pit crew or sponsors, anyone out there that you want to shout out and thank before you go tonight?
We got Film in the Wild. Check them out on YouTube. It'll be youtube.com/Film in the Wild. They got some exciting new stuff that's going to be dropping here. And, so appreciate them being on board with us. And then, you, Gareth and Mason, putting on the broadcast. Be a fun one to go back and watch. And then Tony and all the admins here in the league. It's been a blast so far. So appreciate everyone.
Absolutely. Well, thank you for joining us up here in the booth, Benjamin. It was a pleasure to get in the chat with you. Hopefully get to talk to you again next week, and good luck to you next week at Road America.
Thanks, guys.
Absolutely. You have a great one. Alrighty, folks, and that is going to do it for our post-race interviews, and that's also going to do it for our coverage here today of the Heartland 400 here at Iowa Speedway. Gareth, it's been a great race here tonight, and I certainly look forward to next week as we gear up for Road America, some more road course racing. What's kind of your closing thoughts here tonight?
Well, closing thoughts are going to be that, this race was a doozy. We had a lot going on, not really any cautions. I think we had maybe 2 cautions throughout that entire race. It looked like it was going to go green pretty much the whole time, and almost did so. Great job from all these drivers not to get involved in anything more than they did. It was the typical kind of great racing that you expect to see out of the Velocity Racing League Cup Series, and I very much enjoyed myself here with you, Mason. Everyone joining in chat, very much thankful for them. Not only the ones in chat talking to us in the booth, but also the ones who just spectate, just watch on, just want to have a great time, maybe a few laughs here and there with us, joining us in the booth. So that is fantastic to see, and very much thankful. And also like to give a quick shout out to Red, our race control, as I try and remember what it's called. He does a great job every single week, letting us know as well when the wrecks happen, what's going on, and all that sort of stuff. And he doesn't get probably as much commendation as he deserves. So thank you very much to him, as well as everyone else joining us, like I said. And I'm looking forward to some road course racing next week.
Absolutely. It's going to be a great race as we head to Road America for the Dairyland 250. And folks, that is going to wrap up our coverage here tonight of the Heartland 400. And as always, my name is Mason Heimbaugh, joined alongside me, my esteemed colleague and good friend, Gareth McAllister, with Team Goon Squad, bringing you all the action here tonight. If you enjoyed what you saw, hit that subscribe button. Don't forget to catch all the action that we have here happening almost 7 nights a week here on Team Goon Squad. And also hit that like button if you enjoyed what you saw here tonight. Lets us know that we're doing an okay job up here in the booth. And as always, folks, you know the deal. We will see you all same time, same place next week right here on the Team Goon Squad channel as we head to Road America and start off our endeavors on road course racing yet again here with the 2023 Velocity Racing League Cup Series. If you would like to be a part of the action here with Velocity Racing League, you can head on over to their Discord. I believe it is in the description, and you can find more information on their Discord on how to join and how to be a part of the racing. If you want to support Velocity Racing League and Team Goon Squad, head down to the website you can see on the bottom of your screen, teamgoonsquad.com. Pick up some merchandise, a t-shirt, a sweater, some stickers, a coffee mug, whatever suits your flavor. 50% of the profits go directly back to Velocity Racing League if you pick up any VRL specific merchandise to help them continue support the league and also cover any costs that they might have. That is a mouthful, folks, and I hope you all stuck around for it all and enjoyed the action as it all unfolded. That's going to do it for us tonight. Thank you all for watching, and we will see you all in the next one.